Democrats and Republicans have passed the anti-Semitism bill, which basically says, hey, look, anti-Semitism is already a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, so these schools got to start enforcing this. It basically reiterates what's already existing in executive order, but codifies it in law. The problem? Thomas Massey points out the definition of anti-Semitism doesn't actually exist in the bill. It just refers to a website with a long list of things it defines as anti-Semitism. Now, I suppose where it gets bad, where it gets worse, is if they decide to change the definition of anti-Semitism at another time. Some have construed this as direct criticism of Israel being considered anti-Semitism because it says that if you call the creation or maintenance of Israel racist, that is anti-Semitism itself. So we'll talk about that. Plus, violent clashes erupted last night and in the early hours of the morning as pro-Israel and, or maybe not even necessarily pro-Israel, but counter-protesters to the pro-Hamas group at UCLA started fighting when the counter-protesters came in and started ripping down their barricades. The protesters started resisting, and they all started fighting each other. Then the police came in, bunch of arrests, and of course the NYPD now confirming, yeah, the people who took over that building in New York, they mostly weren't even students. So I can't say I'm surprised. Some news outlets have identified some of the paid agitators who were actually there. And then, of course, James O'Keefe has a massive expose, a CIA agent claiming, bragging about how they intentionally subverted Donald Trump, refused to provide him with intelligence so he could not act upon it because they claim he's a Russian. So we'll talk about that. And then in good news, a bunch of these frat boys defended the American flag from the far left extremists. They've now raised over $200,000 on behalf of these young men to throw a rager, I guess, to support them and their frat because they stood up for the American flag. It's a heartwarming story in the face of all of this anger and violence. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. We got some pretty good coffee. Everybody seems to love Appalachian Nights, and all of the feedback we get, it's that people say they buy it, they share it with their friends, and their friends get hooked. Really appreciate it. We also have Rise with Roberto Jr. It is our coffee company. We sponsor ourselves, and we are building a physical coffee shop in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Come hang out. When you do, if you're a member of Timcast.com, you may actually hang out for one of our live shows, which we'll have once a month in Martinsburg, West Virginia. We are setting those up. We did one already. I think that was in March, and we're working on getting the flow going, but in a few months, the coffee shop itself should be open. And then if you're a member, it'll only be sent through email. It's not a public event, it's a private event. You will get an email when we announce these private members only live shows. But as a member, you'll also get to hang out for our uncensored call-in show, where our members call in to talk to us and our guests. And that's Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. But support our show for a more important reason. YouTube actually just shut down 2 of our biggest episodes ever a couple weeks ago. And they told us at any moment they could pull the plug. 3 years after these shows aired, they said, we decided they broke the rules. So taken down. One more, they said, we're gonna one more and you get a strike and we shut you down for a week. I told them the only option I have then is to delete 1,000 episodes. They said, well, you don't have to do that, but yeah, we could take down more episodes that are 3 or 4 years old. So we are working on contingency plans, so become a member at timcast.com to keep us rolling, because this show is only possible because of our members. And follow us on X at Timcast and on Instagram at Timcast IRL, as well as rumble.com/Timcast IRL. And I'm on Instagram at Timcast for sure. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight is Lisa Reynolds.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be back. Cool new studio.
Yeah, Lisa's actually filling in. So for those that are wondering, Matt Gaetz was originally scheduled.
Yeah.
But Congress stuff happens, and it happens all the time. This is why we usually don't like to announce well in advance when we're having guests, because especially members of Congress. But we're big fans of Matt Gaetz. Shout out to his work. He was unable to make it tonight, but Lisa's filling in.
I'm Matt tonight. So
You're Matt.
I'm Matt.
So what do you do? I think everybody knows you.
Yeah, everybody pretty much knows me. I basically book for your show, The Culture War. Tune in on Fridays at 10 a.m. We've got some really cool stuff coming up, actually, down the pipeline.
But you've also worked on the Hill.
I have. I worked on the Hill for 12 years, right? And I worked in Middle East foreign policy for 2 years, too. People forget that. So
it's actually kind of convenient you're here.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to complain about AIPAC now. And then we'll get to hear about what was really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I actually helped write the policy that defunded UNRWA. back in 2018 for the Trump administration. Not a lot of people know that, but
Oh, wow.
yeah.
All right. We got Phil hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. What's going on, Hannah Claire?
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. I'm really happy to be back. Hi, Serge.
Well,
Hello.
Phil, we forgot something. There's a link in the description below.
Oh, yes. There is a link in the description below tonight to the pre-save, the new single from All That Remains. The song is called Divine. It will be available this Friday. Tonight in the after show, we're going to premiere the video so you guys here at Timcast, the members, can check out the new video from All That Remains.
So I would estimate around 10 p.m., the new song from All That Remains, Divine, will be playing live in the members only section. So become a member. It's such a good song. It's really, really great. I remember the rough mixes you were sending back, and I was like, wow.
Yeah,
we were all super impressed. So we're really excited for this. And anyway, Serge is here.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Your mic. Oh, are you gonna?
I already did that school.
All right. Well, let's just jump to the story then. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, from NBC News. House passes anti-Semitism bill with broad bipartisan support amid campus arrests. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act would require the Education Department to adopt the definition of anti-Semitism used by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Oh boy, wow. It passed with 320 to 91. 21 Republicans and 70 Democrats voted against the legislation. I'm actually surprised.
Me too.
To see as many Democrats vote against it. I'm not surprised by the Republicans, but the Democratic Party is pushing very heavily away from Israel, so I guess it's not really that surprising. They say the bill, titled the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, would mandate that the Education Department adopt the broad definition of anti-Semitism used by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, an intergovernmental group to enforce anti-discrimination laws. The international group defines anti-Semitism as a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. I mean, that's actually very vague. The group adds that rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism include such things as calling for the killing or harming of Jews or holding Jews collectively responsible for actions taken by the state of Israel. I mean, some of these things are fair, right? The problem is, we have the bill pulled up. I'll throw it to Thomas Massey. He says, today the House will vote on a bill to define anti-Semitism with the intent to increase prosecutions of activity on campuses. The bill has a problem beyond violating the First Amendment. The definition of anti-Semitism appears nowhere in the bill. To find the legally adopted definition of anti-Semitism, one must go to the website below. Not only is the definition listed here, but one also finds specific examples of anti-Semitic speech. Are those examples made part of the law itself? Do you agree with all of these examples of anti-Semitism? Should people in America be prosecuted for saying these things in all contexts? I think not. This is a poorly conceived, unconstitutional bill, and I will vote no. Well, here we are. The bill has passed, and a few important things to point out. It says Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, et cetera, et cetera. They go on to mention that there's already, I think, here we go. On December 11, 2019, Executive Order 13899 extended protections against discrimination under the 1964 Civil Rights Act to individuals subjected to anti-Semitism on college and university campuses, and tasked federal agencies to consider the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism when enforcing the Title VI of such act. Now, that's under Donald Trump. What we have here, I'll pull up Matt Walsh. Here's how he puts it. The vast majority of Republicans just voted for a bill to criminalize criticisms of the Israeli government. If the bill passes, you will be guilty of hate speech if you apply double standards to the government of Israel or accuse it of genocide. This is honestly one of the most insane pieces of legislation I have ever seen. A few examples, and then we'll just jump into it. And some of these I think are okay. It's like some of these are calling for aiding or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of an ideology. Like, yeah, okay, I get that. The ones that Matt brings up, denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. That's actually pretty wild to say you are in violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act if you think Israel is racist. I mean, that's an opinion on a state government. They say applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Now, look, I rag on people with what I describe as Israel derangement syndrome, but I think it's fair for people to have concerns. Like if you are critical or concerned with one government or one issue, that's not wrong. You're allowed to care about, I made the joke earlier. Can we talk about Myanmar instead? You're allowed to only care about the Philippines. You're allowed to only care about Japan. You're allowed to only care about the United States. It's actually pretty crazy that they're trying to say that's anti-Semitism. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism to characterize Israel or Israelis, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. This is literally saying criticizing Israel's policies and drawing comparisons to the Nazis. This would be a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act under this new law.
So two things, right? First of all, hate speech is protected speech by the First Amendment. Like you can hate, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't need new laws to wrap up every single one of those moron commies for trespassing. Like none of that is like, you can wrap every single one of them up and throw them in jail. And
you don't need a new law.
Yeah, you don't need a new law. You don't need something that Congress passes. You don't need a law that is unquestionably in violation of the First Amendment.
Like the reason they're doing it, right? Like, why this bill was even put forth. It's for Republicans to message on the bill like, hey, Jews out there, we're here, we support you, left or right, right? And it's the Democrats that aren't. And so what we're going to do is we're going to force it to be on Biden to say, yes or no or whatever, and try to put him in a corner or put this administration in a corner. And like, we're the people that are doing something. It's a messaging bill, which that's why I was surprised it wasn't a resolution. It was an actual bill. But that's what it's for. But it's horrible. But
it already accomplishes the political goal. 70 Democrats voted against it. Now, the funny thing is, I don't agree with why they voted against it, which is the funny thing, because they have ideological reasons for doing so. Mm-hmm. But it was right to vote against it, so Correct. I'll take it. And now Democrats are going to be, look, I will tell you this. MSNBC and Fox News are aligned. This is the funniest thing imaginable. I'm seeing tweets from Morning Joe that are like, these anti-Israel protesters. And then I turn on Fox News and they're like, these anti-Israel protesters are so bad. It's crazy when on Fox News. So you had these clashes last night in the early hours of the morning where anti-Hamas, pro-Israel groups are tearing down the fortifications of the far left groups. And the phrasing of Fox News is that these people were simply defending their community. And I'm like, it's fascinating that two groups are fighting at a university. And I get it. The far left took land. They barred people from entering. They were blocking students from getting in. But my point is not to say that Fox is wrong or to get into the moral argument. It's that MSNBC and Fox agree. That blew my mind. And now you've got a bipartisan support for this bill. Amazing.
See, that just makes me nervous, right? When our politicians and our media are all lining up behind something, I feel like we should be concerned about it. In this case, I really do think that this is obviously a violation of the First Amendment. I mean, I think that hate speech laws are already usually a violation of the First Amendment. I can understand the intention to be like, we want to protect people and we want people to feel like they're not being targeted. But this, I think, is a complete misstep on Congress's part. And the thing is, if we pass bills that were like, well, this is you can't say things against white people, you can't say things against, this group and this group, whatever. It seems sort of ridiculous and redundant. I don't think that we should be singling out ethnic groups like this when we already have laws in the book that protect people from this from potential violence.
It's redundant, but it's the same thing with the BLM stuff and everything's racist. Now it's like everything's anti-Semitic. You can't have a conversation. And it's not everything, but a lot of things have been turning into that, like the Christ is King thing, right? Like people have been saying that for a really long time. Now, yes, some people will use it to piss off Jews. Okay, fine. But it's these words have existed this way forever, and it's not anti-Semitic if somebody's at church and they're like, Christ is King.
And I just don't feel comfortable with the idea that we would be like, well, you can't criticize this one country's government. This country's an exception. Criticize everyone else, but not this one. Well, partially because I think that list would grow. There'd be certain countries that are allowed to operate without criticism, and that's not free speech.
I'm going to need some help from the audience on this one. Maybe someone in the room can help me. Is there any other policy, any law that was enacted that says you can't criticize the policy decisions of another nation by comparing it to the Nazis? Like, is there a bill anywhere that says, like, you
that I
can't
can
claim
think
the
of.
Japanese are like the Nazis or something?
Not that I can think of.
Okay,
but
because
I
the
mean,
point is then we have a double standard.
of course.
And so, I just love this, okay? It says, let's pull this one from Matt Walsh. This is from the IHRA. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. And also drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of Nazis.
That's
It's almost oxymoronic. It's contradictory. And I suppose that means this bill itself is anti-Semitic. Because it is requiring a standard of Israel that you cannot criticize them if you cannot criticize their policies to that of the Nazis, but you could for literally any other nation. That's a double standard. That's requiring of something of Israel that no other nation is subjected to. So this bill itself is actually anti-Semitic.
Makes sense to me. I mean, the thing is, I am wary of definitions created by a special interest group that are the main core tenet of a bill like this, right?
That's almost all bills, though, just so you know.
I know it, but that doesn't mean I can't be critical of it, right? Like, obviously anyone who is specifically here to represent the groups of special interest, totally fine. That might be your right as a lobbying group or whatever. But I think every senator or any congressman who is like, well, we should just go with it, that seems like they don't serve their people.
So it was Candace that was just on with that Rabbi Barclay, right? Who, by the way, I had an hour and a half conversation with him a couple days ago, honestly. And in that conversation, though, he said that the definition of anti-Semitism is changeable and it morphs and it changes over time and people use it in different ways. And, you know, I understand what he was saying in that, you know, that people do different things now and say different things, but it's still out of their hatred for the Jews. Fine. But like if all these groups are saying that the definition is morphing all the time, then anything can be anti-Semitic, and that's not all
It's
right.
like gender, you know? That changes all the time too.
I'm gonna need some help from Christians. This one confused me. It says, using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g. claims of Jews killing Jesus. Okay,
the Romans killed Jesus. That's why.
Right. But why
But
did the
Jews
Romans?
termed them in.
Well, yeah,
Why
but
did
what they're going to say, the explanation that they're going to say the answer is going to say the Romans killed him, and it wasn't the actual Jews that did it.
Okay, all right. If we're talking about the technicality of it, like, it's fine, I guess. My understanding is that the belief of Christians is that the Jewish leaders in the region basically said of the Romans, he's a blasphemer and he should be held criminally liable for this. And then I believe it was it Pontius Pilate?
Yeah.
He came out and said, okay, you can choose to free one person. Was it Barabbas?
Yeah, a murderer.
The murderer or Jesus. And they're like, the murderer, not him. And so then, like, Jesus was lashed. And then, if I'm wrong about that, I just don't know. It's my general understanding. So the interpretation by, I think Vivek Ramaswamy, a fake Vivek Ramaswamy, actually, not the real one, responded, saying it criminalizes a simple aspect of reading the Bible under the guise of combating anti-Semitism. Because I assume this is correct. The interpretation of many Christians is that it was the Jewish leaders who orchestrated the death of Jesus.
I mean, this is what Matt Gaetz is saying. If you have his tweet available, I can send it to you if you want. He says the gospel itself would meet the definition.
Which one was it? Rep Matt
Gaetz.
Yeah, he quotes the Bible in his secondary tweet on that too.
Yeah, he says the gospel itself would meet the definition of anti-Semitism under the terms of this bill, right? Like, this bill, I think part of it is the pressure that these protests are putting on lawmakers to act and have some sort of grandiose grandstanding where they're like, the same thing with Harvard when they finally, let Claudine Gay go, pretending it wasn't for what we all know it was for. They were like, but we're going to keep the anti-Semitism task force because, we're taking it seriously if we formed a bureaucratic task force to deal with something. That's how you know.
So we have this, this is the tweet from Rep Matt Gaetz. He says, this evening, I will vote against the ridiculous hate speech bill called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. And now you know why he couldn't be here. So shout out to Matt Gaetz. Mm-hmm. We're big fans. He's the best member of Congress, in my opinion. Thomas Massie is up there, too. And we disagree on things, but Thomas Massie is pretty great. Anti-Semitism is wrong, but this legislation is written without regard for the Constitution. He says the gospel itself would meet the definition of anti-Semitism under the terms of this bill. He goes on to say, Acts 4:10, be it known to you all, and to all the people of Israel, that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified, whom God raised from the dead, by him this man is standing before you well. Then you have Thessalonians 2:14-16. For you suffered the same things. I'm skipping through a little bit. For you suffered the same things from your own countrymen as they did from the Jews, who killed both the Lord Jesus and the prophets. And Acts 3:14-15. You denied the holy and righteous one, and asked for a murderer to be granted to you and killed the author of life, whom God raised from the dead. To this we are witnesses. Now, I am not stating that. I'm simply reading Bible passages from a member of Congress who is saying this bill would make the Bible itself an act of anti-Semitism. And so what? Now, if you go to the university and you read those passages, they could charge you or fine you under the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Would this mean that at these universities, if a professor reads these passages, the university is now in violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act? I mean, I got to be completely honest. If that's the case, then the Quran is banned as well, because the Quran says much, much more than this. We were talking about this the other night. Mm-hmm. The Quran has numerous statements, and don't get me started on the Hadith. The Hadith would not be allowed anywhere. Mm-hmm. So this bill.
And it would disproportionately affect Christian universities, right? If you're an explicit Christian university, that's part of the course curriculum, as well as student code of conduct or whatever else. Like, there is a probable chance that you're more likely than just any university to quote these kinds of passages, and therefore be in the crosshairs of the Department of Education, which if we reelect Joe Biden, would go after you.
The good thing is it's unlikely to get through the Senate and actually pass the Senate.
You think?
Yeah, I
Really?
think that, because everybody's going to be talking about it, and it's a violation. And then if anybody gets charged under it, it'll go to the Supreme Court. I just think that they're going to hold it for a while, maybe not even bring it to the floor, not get it out of markup, and see. And I just don't see it.
I wouldn't be surprised
through.
if every Republican starts virtue signaling, saying we must pass this bill, and trying to put pressure on Democrats, because the goal, as you said, is a messaging bill to make it look like Democrats won't support the Jewish community.
Yeah, I could see that. But I still don't think it's going to. I just have a feeling that it's not going to make it through. I think that would be egregious. That's just me, though.
Or if it did, would Biden sign it?
I mean, I feel like he would kind of have to, because that's the point of the bill, and the voting bloc that he's courting now currently with the policies that they're kind of pushing for.
Well, and he can't be the president that, made the economy terrible, banned TikTok, and then voted against the anti-Semitism bill. Like, there's no way even his advisors can see that messaging is bad.
Yeah, it's probably true.
I also,
even though this bill is bad, and I think he shouldn't sign it. I just want to be clear on that.
I think Republicans know it's a bad bill. They wanted to get the message out. They got the message out. They put them on the defensive, and that's all they really need.
I think that's a stupid risk to take, honestly. I get what you're saying. I totally agree with you. I think that is part of it. They want to be the ones who are like, look, we're on your side. Vote for us. But I just think it's, stupid to put forward bills that are bad, that hurt your First Amendment protections, and just pass it off as like, oh, well, we wanted to seem like we were on the right side of history. Like, no, thank you.
But it is working. I mean, when I go out with James and we're filming people on the street, I've run into Jewish people in Philadelphia, and they're like, we hate Trump. We hate Trump. But what's going on with Israel? We're going to vote for him.
Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at this guy. Right. I mean, he was so into making videos hating Trump, he made fun of himself for making fun of Trump so much. That's how much he was. And now he's like, voting for pig dick Donald Trump is on the table. Yeah. I'll tell you why. And then he goes to Israel and he's filming all this stuff. I mean, this dude's pissed about what these people are doing.
Yeah.
Let's jump to this next story, and we'll give some examples of what's going on. From the AP, violence, chaos erupts on campuses as protesters and counter-protesters clash over the war in Gaza. So counter-protesters forcefully attacked a pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of California, Los Angeles early Wednesday. An activist clashed with police officers who destroyed their tents at the University of Wisconsin in Madison as part of a series of escalating violence on some college campuses over the war in Gaza. 15 people were injured during the UCLA confrontation, including one person who was hospitalized, according to the president of the University of California system. The chaotic scenes unfolded Wednesday after police burst into a building occupied by anti-war protesters. Pause. Anti-war? I'm not accepting that. Leftist, communist protesters at Columbia University, many of which weren't even students, breaking up a demonstration that had paralyzed the school. Now, the funny thing is, I got to mention this. There's a tweet, I think, is from Cenk Uygur, and he's like, it was these violent pro-Israel groups that came and attacked the peaceful protesters. And I was like, I just love this. I love this so much. Okay, so here's what happens. A group of people slowly start settling on land that doesn't belong to them, and then decide they're going to put up barricades to keep the people who originally were using that space out. Then the people who are originally there get angry and fight back, trying to tear down the barricades, attacking those who are now occupying that land. And the irony is lost on all of them.
That's very
It was funny, though. I got some tweets and they're like, that sounds like Hamas. And I'm like, you figured it out, huh? So the pro-Palestine group takes over the school grounds, put up barricades, and were barring people from getting in unless you supported their cause. Then they would give you a wristband. No, they had red wristbands. So a bunch of Jewish students were like, no, I won't support them. Like, then you can't come in. It's like,
New
I go to
York's
school
hottest
here.
club is.
Yep. And they're like, no, they won't let you in. So a bunch of these kids got mad and they formed a group and they showed up in the morning and they started tearing down the barricades. They started picking up the metal barricades, pulling things down when the pro-Hamas side, and I'm not going to mince words, it's the pro-Hamas side, started resisting. Then I believe it's fair to say, I don't know who started what, but I believe from the videos I've seen, it was the counter demonstrators who started attacking the pro-Hamas group.
Yeah, it looked that way to me. I heard from a reporter that was on the ground that they were all really cool. They were just like a bunch of people that were either harassed earlier in the day that came back because they were pissed about what happened. He said there were some Israelis, but they were a lot of just kids that got harassed earlier in the day that didn't want to be a part of it and that were sick of it, that just wanted, class to go on.
I just say, don't go start fights. Like, the police needed to go in and deal with this from the get-go. And this happens because the cops refused to do anything.
Did you see them throw a firework in there?
They threw it into the crowd?
They threw it over and into the ground. That's dangerous.
I think it was Cassandra who said this. It looks like a pro-Israel Antifa faction and an anti-Israel Antifa faction fighting each other with Antifa tactics. And I was like, it does. It really does.
Yeah. That's who these people are. You can't deny that these same people were the same people that are in this camp were the same people that were marching with BLM.
Of course they were.
For a fact there. We know
100%.
It's already been reported.
But even
some of the people who are there who are paid organizers are well known. Like I was saying the other night, we call them the tourists at Occupy Wall Street. New York Post reported on one woman, and we'll make her infamous, I guess. Not that I want to give her attention or anything, but she was well known during Occupy. Her name is Lisa Fithian, and they reported she's appeared in Turkey as well, organizing protests. And you wonder how it is that these people are involved in international protest movements and organizations, and they're getting paid to do it. Someone's funding this. Outside of what she does, which is like activist trainings and things like that, so they report. There are a handful of other people who have been to China, of all places, who are in Ukraine, who are in a bunch of these places, who are in Venezuela and Brazil, and we call them the tourists. Some people speculate they're feds. I don't know that they're feds. Some people think they're CIA because, they're going off into foreign lands and fomenting revolution and things like that. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't know. All I know is it's funny to see activists in the United States training people to protest, how to avoid legal consequence. And then it's like, oh, and by the way, that person was also in China doing the same thing. This person was also in Turkey. That person was in Brazil. And you're like, that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? What's going on here? I will say, however, I don't know that this clash right now, this is like when you get general pro-Trump versus anti-Trump factions fighting in the street, I get worried about how far this could escalate. But really with like the Israel issue, I don't even think it registers in the top 10 for the average voter. So it's like the people who are fighting the pro-Hamas side were just people who were barred from their school by this, leftist communist faction. I don't see this spreading or escalating into street violence beyond that.
I think it
maybe
is
with cops.
Yeah, I think it is really centralized at the universities, and I think the average voter, this may not be a pressing issue, but it is for young voters, and they are having differing levels of effectiveness. Brown University agreed, the pro-Palestine protesters agreed to break down their encampment because the Brown University board agreed to vote on divesting from Israel. Theoretically, the board could be like, and we're not going to do it, and they'll bring back the protest. But they are having, they did get at least a vote. There is some forward progress there. I think it's a weird stance for people to be in because it's a foreign war that is really captivating the hearts and minds of young progressive leftists, and it's splitting them from older Democrats who they would have, especially at these Ivy League universities, these were their job connections, these were their, future employment. And so it hurts the Democratic Party more than anybody else. And I think that's why I think at a certain level, I'm sort of like, just let them fight it out. Obviously, violence is bad. You want to be careful of that. I think the universities have a right to kick people off their protesting. I think the protesters have a right to protest. But it's contained really to what I think of as the heart and soul of progressive academia, elite universities across the country. I don't really see this breaking out, in the middle of a major city at random over the summer.
Not now, maybe a couple of years down the road, but because Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilizations, I think that's inevitably where we'll go. But these teachers, the professors, are lining up arms in arms with orange vests on, and they're participating in this. I saw some professor that was tweeting out, I think it was Brown or Columbia or something, but she was like, they can't do this. This is, stay strong or whatever. These teachers are escalating the situation. They're not calming it down. They're not making it better. I want to know what happens to the professors that are egging this on, that are actively participating. Are they gonna be fired?
And I want to know how many are tenured.
Right.
How many of them are theoretically impossible to remove.
But
from
you're
their positions.
committing crimes. You're trust.
They don't want to. The teachers they fire. It's going to be difficult to replace, and then they have to worry about losing customers, and they don't want to have their customers arrested. They're just trying to figure out how to maximize their revenue streams. So the problem right now with UCLA and these other universities is if the protests come to the point where people stop wanting to come to the school, you lose money. But if you arrest and remove or expel these students, you lose money too. So they got to do that cost and benefit analysis. If we expel 100 students right now, how much do we lose? If we let them keep doing whatever they want, do we lose less?
And how many people will decide not to apply to our school if we get labeled the one that was anti-Palestine or anti-whatever?
None of the Jewish ones.
It's interesting because I think this, U.S. News and World Report always puts out this ranking of colleges every year, and part of it has to do with enrollment and how many students choose to stay at the schools. If you suspend all of these students who are actively participating, but then the other ones who weren't actively participating but are going to take a holier than thou stance and say, actually, I believe in this issue 100%, so I'm going to transfer away from your school. I mean, you could see a real shift in how these universities are valued by the system that they rely on to maintain their dominance in education.
But they also care about their endowments, and the endowment money isn't coming from...
That's true. It's coming from Bill Ackman?
Yeah, it's not coming from the pro-Palestinian side, right?
Right.
It's coming from the pro-Israel side. So
I think Bill Ackman just gave $10,000 to those frat boys who defended the flag.
Yeah.
So he's basically throwing his money down on the other side because he was woke before, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Was that his story?
I think so. He was lefty, at least.
I look. I'm down. It's fine. I'm not a fan of the anti-Semitism bill because of it's vague and it conflates criticizing a government with anti-Semitism,
because it violates the First Amendment. If people can hate, it's not like I advocate hating people, but if you have if you have a beef with people, you have the right to hate. It's not good. Yeah. It's not good to be like that, but that's part of being a free person.
I'm thinking mathematically, right? The sum result of what's going on is going to be more and more people realizing DEI, wokeness, and this far left stuff is bad. And I don't care why they come to that conclusion. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, only now because Israel is being targeted, these people realize DEI is bad. When they were the ones attacking the cops, I'm like, don't care. I'm going to walk right up to them, reach a hand out and say, welcome to the fight.
True.
That's the lesson from Occupy Wall Street that I love to tell, where there were two black dudes talking. One guy was yelling at the other guy saying, why are you here with these white kids? They don't know nothing about our struggle, and you're going to help them? And the other guy just said to him, he's like, oh, you don't understand, man. Now they get it. Now they see what we've been talking about. So I reach out my hand and say, welcome to the fight. And now they're standing with me, not the other way around. I respect it. I'm like, 100%. If Bill Ackman or anyone else is now being like, whoa, is this what universities were doing? My response is, let me show you more. Because once you start to dig down to the rabbit hole, you're going to realize just how bad it is.
I agree.
A lot of people didn't believe it. And a lot of people on the issue of Israel, it smacked him in the face. Michael Rappaport is my favorite example. He's a funny guy. He's in the new Fallout show. I like his work. And he hates Trump with a passion. Then he sees what's going on with these people. And now he's digging deeper and looking into more of what they've been doing and going, whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the door's been opened. Let him do it.
I think so much of this is actually, some of it is driving people to Trump because they see him as, a better option. But I think it's also just driving a lot of voters away from Biden. Like I've referenced a couple times, but I've been listening to interviews with young progressive activists, 19, 20. And there are, a fair number that will say, well, I'm not going to vote at all. Some of them are saying they'll vote for Trump as a protest against Biden because they think he's so awful now. But Democrats who have prided themselves on being the recipient of the youth vote for so long, they're so good at motivating young people. They just have hit an issue that I do not think they can navigate past. And I think to a certain extent, they're trying to close their eyes and just rush November as soon as possible because they know there's really no way to reach out to these students who are saying, hey, Israel is the aggressor in this war, Israel's doing the wrong thing, and win them back over with Biden sort of standing on both sides and putting up a port, but we're not boots on the ground. Like, there's no saving the messaging here.
I think sort of the funny thing here is between MAGA and the far left, there is only one faction you could actually convince to support Israel. The MAGA faction, many of them already do, just outright support Israel and would absolutely, despite being America First, many of them are like, no, but Israel, I would agree with funding, many for religious reasons. However, I would say most of the people who are America First and pro-Trump, or a large portion, maybe the plurality, are like, I don't want to fund foreign wars. I don't want to fund foreign governments. Let's secure our borders. But if you go to them and you say something like, look at what's going on, and you make an argument, there is a possibility some of them might be like, okay, fine, I guess. Whereas the far left will never. So if the deep state wants to maintain their military policies in the Middle East pertaining to Israel especially, you can't go left. There's no argument at all. It's just not going to happen. I mean, Trump supporters are not setting up encampments and taking over cities because of funding bills. They're complaining about it on the internet. So it's like, you pick your poison, deep state. You can get behind Donald Trump, who you hate and can't stand, but you get a little bit of your military policy. You go with the left, and they're going to occupy cities. They're going to build parks, and they're going to defy your interests. I suppose they can go the other way and just ban TikTok, though. That's kind of their plan, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Inhibit the political opinions. Well, I'm going to jump to the story. This is a post from Nate Silver. For most people, politics is about fitting in.
True.
And this breaks it down wonderfully. He has polling data on the top issues. Out of 16 issues, what number do you think Israel-Palestine is? Any guesses?
75.
It's at the bottom.
1 through 16.
16.
16.
15.
15, yeah.
Yeah, I think abortion is 16.
Whoa.
No, I could be wrong. I don't know. Let me check. Is it? Student debt. Sorry. No, I was wrong. Yeah, women's reproductive rights actually a little bit higher on that one. But inflation among 18 to 29-year-olds, 64%. Isn't that crazy?
That's really actually a white pill, because young people being aware of what the government is doing to the value of the money that they're making is important, because the biggest problem that we have, I don't care what anyone says about Israel or whatever, the biggest problem we have is our unfunded liabilities. Medicare and Medicaid, those things will actually destroy the dollar. They will destroy the country. It doesn't matter what happens in Israel with Gaza and with Israel at all to us.
You're absolutely right.
If the dollar is destroyed. And that is 100% a possibility if we don't have a responsible government actually with responsible monetary policy. We were able to spend and print money like we did when the economy was growing because of the growth. Without that growth, we can't keep printing money like we have been. And you see the inflation, and you also see the interest rates are not actually controlling inflation like they want. It's really, really bad, and that's something that everyone needs to really pay way more attention to. That's a white pill in my opinion.
I just love how no demographic cares about student debt at all. Among 18 to 29-year-olds, 26%. Men, 24. Females, 27. White, 24. Black, 31. Hispanic, 25. Democrats, 29. Republicans, 22. Independents, 26. Nobody cares. No. And Biden just canceled more student debt for a bunch of art students or whatever. I don't see what the point is. But inflation at 64%, everybody cares about it. That is great news. But of course, Israel-Palestine is way down here at the bottom. And it looks like It
No
looks
one
like
cares.
Democrats have the highest at 37%. That's it.
It's funny, and that's how you know like online is not real life because
No.
that's all you see. I mean, I am
Yeah.
so sick of talking about Israel, Palestinians. I'm so sick of it, and that's all you see. Yet when you go talk to the average person on the street, they're not even aware that this is even that big of a conversation. They know
hear that?
But it's why,
conflicts
I mean,
are
it's the
going
same
You
on.
hear
thing with
that,
universities.
chat? It's not that big of a deal. You guys can stop going on and on about Israel. No one cares.
But I think
It's-
part of
it's-
it is universities are also micro, like the internet, right? One person starts talking about something and it starts to seem everywhere. That's again why these protests are jumping from campus to campus as opposed to suddenly, no one is going into the streets of, Akron, Ohio and saying you must divest. Like they're only doing that at universities for a reason. And I think that Phil's totally right. They used to say, young people are Democrats and then they get their first paycheck and see how many taxes come out and they're like, wait a minute, now I don't want taxes. I'm a Republican. And I think the effect of that now, the more modern take is inflation. If you're young and trying to establish a strong financial future, it feels impossible right now because everything costs more every single year. And even if you have a good job, the cost of living rises so dramatically that, if you're working your first job out of college and you're making, something that's like fair amount, it feels even less every single year, even if you get
Just to
small
buy a
raises.
car.
It's
they can't
impossible.
even buy a car. Forget the house and all that. Like
Buy
if
the
they
car,
wanna-
insure the car. Car insurance went up by like 25%. Groceries are up constantly. You can't think about the future. And again, that's all that the Republicans in every state need to campaign on right now. Immigration, inflation. And this is something that young people are really resonating with because they are faced with the fallout of the Biden economy.
So Nate Silver says his theory is there's two main drivers of political beliefs. Politics is self-interest, like rich people want lower taxes and sexually active women want abortion rights. And then he says politics is personal identity. Whose team are you on? But other issues have primarily symbolic stakes. These serve as vehicles for individual and group expression, not so much identity politics, but politics as identity. People are trying to figure out where they fit in, who's on their side and who isn't, and this works in both directions. People can be attracted to a group or negatively polarized by it. People have different reasons for arguing about politics and can derive value from a sense of social belonging and receiving reinforcement that the choices are honorable and righteous. And let me just pause you right there, Mr. Nate Silver. That is predominant among the left and less so among the right. The quote unquote right, as they describe it, is, disparate libertarians who don't like Donald Trump, who is going to be speaking at the LP National Convention, which we'll talk about in a second, which is crazy. But a bunch of different factions, Christians, non-Christians. You've got like post-atheist now, where they're like the woke is a new religion. All of the and you have post-liberal and you have former Democrats. And even liberals, classical liberals, are now all right-wing. They're not on the same team. They're all on the those guys are crazy team. But the interesting thing about politics as personal identity as well is that also shows there's umbrellas to these different factions. Something we often would talk to Ian about because he wouldn't seem to understand what left and right meant. Left and right are umbrella terms for the different factions that exist within these spheres of influence. But on the right, people have no problem disagreeing with each other, debating each other, and getting along. On the left, it's homogenous. It is fall in line or we will cancel you. Just like at these protests where if you disagree with their insert cause of the day, you could not enter these spaces. But ultimately, I think what we get at the Nate Silver thing is, obviously, this is what we see with Black Lives Matter and the pro-Palestine stuff. It doesn't matter what they're saying. They have the exact same tactics. They create a protest for against Israel, and they create the People's Library and the People's University. That's what they did during Occupy. It doesn't matter whether it's the rich, Black Lives Matter, or Israel. They all do the exact same thing. It is basically Burning Man for these kids. And then you have that viral video where you have that, like the people are barricaded in Columbia in the Hamilton Hall. And then they're barricading us in. And one woman goes, F you, it's finals. I want to go home. Yeah. They're basically playing cops and robbers. And they don't realize there are real consequences. They're going to go to jail. But that's part of the radicalization process.
Yeah, but they'll get their charges dropped, or they'll be arrested, and then when it's time to
Do you remember when there were the pipeline protest in North Dakota, and I think it's Shailene Woodley. She's an actress.
Yeah, she was in Divergent.
Yeah, I think so. I just remember this clip of her like handing her phone to her assistant, being like, "Keep filming," while she got arrested, because it's like a badge of honor, right? Being like, "I'm so in the know, and I'm up on the environmental causes and this, that, and the other." You know, some people go into protest knowing that potentially getting arrested is a risk. I don't know why the university students would not have thought of that, unless they feel like, you know, college campus is a safe space and real life rules don't apply to them there.
I'll let you in on some advice. It's fairly obvious to anybody who watches internet video. If you ask questions at a protest, they kick you out. When you go to these, you know, pro Hamas protests, if you start asking simple things like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" They're going to be like, "Okay, enough from you," and they're going to kick you out. I was at a protest in New York when Donald Trump had his, 7 dangerous countries ban. And they were all protesting, like someone bullhorning, saying Trump is banning Muslims from entering the country. And so there was this woman and this guy that I had met. And I was like, why is she calling it a Muslim ban, though? Like, honest question. Because I know that this bans like North Korea and Venezuela, too. And they were just like, "What's your problem, dude?" And I was like, "What?" And they said, "What's your problem?" I was like, "I don't have a problem. I'm just wondering, is there something about it that's like specifically about Muslims?" And they were like, "Whatever." And they just turned around and stopped talking to me. I was like, "Okay, like it's a cult. Ask questions, they throw you out."
But it even like, so, you know, younger minds are more impressionable and they want to be social and they want to be liked in their peer groups and things like that. But you even see with adults. I know an adult male who refuses to tell his mother and his coworkers that he voted for Trump every time. And he still tells people he's a Democrat, even though he's not, and watches this show, watches a ton of other shows. And he's like, but he's afraid to come out because he's like, "It'll hurt my business, it'll hurt my relationship." So think about how younger and impressionable these kids are, and they want to fit in, and they're already weird because like these are the weird kids. But like, let's be fair, they're not the cool frat guys that are like getting sun-tanned by himself, like not caring about what's happening. These are the weird kids, so they already want to be included.
Well, and they're high anxiety, right? They're highly neurotic, and so they're looking for validation a lot of the time. I think part of the issue is that so a lot of younger voters don't really believe in the two-party system, right? And so they don't necessarily want to identify as Democrat or as a Republican, but they do have their enclave issues, right? They're radical feminists, or they're, you know, whatever it is. They have something that they were like, well, because I feel like this very strongly, I'm more likely to vote for this party. And I've done this myself too. I always think of myself as conservative, and, you know, I vote Republican, but I don't necessarily think of myself as a Republican. And I think that mentality almost makes it harder for them because they don't want to be associated with the party exactly, but they do also use the party's platform as a litmus test for their friendships, right? They don't want anyone. I remember this one girl, a girl I knew back in the day, super leftist, and she told me she would never shop at Walmart because that's where racists shop. What? That doesn't make any sense at all. But it's this idea that, like, you know, people who you don't like act a certain way, and so you go out of your way to avoid even seeming like them, even though you don't even know if you want to be a part of the group that you could potentially be a part of.
Weren't there 2 girls that were just like interviewed, and they were like, I don't actually know why I'm protesting. There was a clip of that just recently, right?
Very
they don't know what they're doing. They just
it's Burning Man.
They just
say,
want
"Hey,
to
look,
have fun.
We're
This
gonna
seems cool.
We're gonna go hang out in the grass. We're gonna put up tents. There's gonna be food and drinks, and we're gonna read books. We're gonna do story time. And then we're going to bar Jews from coming on campus," because that's what they did at UCLA, because they wanted you to agree with them, and the Jewish students wouldn't do it. And this is what ultimately leads to these clashes. So here's the thing. I'm at the point where I have a question about, for you guys. So these protests, most of the people there have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. Having experience at protests, I imagine if you walk up to the average person, they might even say, "Oh, I'm not protesting. I was just here to check it out." And that's like maybe like 40 or 50% of the people there were just like, "Oh, my friends told me they were going to be down here. I'm not really for a protest or anything. I'm just here." They get caught up in those protests. But when people are saying these protests are anti-Semitic, I have to actually wonder, the issue I suppose is if there are 10 people at UCLA who have decided they will not let Jewish students in this place, and no one else in the camp will stop them from barring Jewish students, then you basically have a protest that just doesn't like Jews. It just keeps Jewish students out. If a Jewish student walks up, and this is on video, and he's wearing a Star of David, and he says, "I'm just trying to go to my class," and they won't let him in. And the other protesters are in there going, we're not anti-Semitic, we're just critical of Israel. And it's like, well, the people that you are supporting, that you are providing resources for, are blocking a Jewish student from coming in, and you do nothing about it. If you provide resource to someone who is intentionally targeting Jewish students, I'm just going to go ahead and call you all anti-Semitic. I understand there's legitimate criticisms of Israel. That's fine. But if you've got people who are standing next to you expressing the intent to target Jewish students, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. We respect a diversity of tactics. I'm like, okay, well, then you're all anti-Semitic.
But they're not just anti-Semitic. I think the greater thing is that they're anti-Semitic, but they're anti-Christian too. There was a video that I had reposted where the guy's like, "This is Christians' fault." Like, okay, now we're blaming the Christians, right?
But we're not passing an anti-Christian bill. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, but this isn't like, it's not even about that. They're finding any cause that they can find to riot, to be destructive, because their real goal is destruction of this country. Mm-hmm. I don't think they even really care that much about what's going on there. It's just an excuse to be able to cause mayhem, to break down the systems here.
I'm going to give you a good example. There was I believe it was a Patriot Prayer rally in the Pacific Northwest, and a guy showed up doing Nazi salutes and saying racial slurs, and they threw him out immediately and screamed in his face and said, "Get out of here, you don't represent us." The media then lied and said, "Look at this guy who was at this rally." But the right had no problem saying, "No, you're out. We do not agree with you." The left is like, "We're cool with it." And then I'm like, okay, well, look, man, when there's a video of it's like 6 people linking arms and blocking a Jewish student from coming in. There's another one where they have a barricade set up and there's like a couple students standing outside it, and there's just like one guy standing there holding it, not letting him in. And there's not a single response, no rejection of the tactic. I'm just going to go ahead and assume they're all lying, and they literally just conflate any Jewish student with Israel, and they see it as one thing. That being said, I mean, the anti-Semitism bill saying you can't criticize the Israeli government comparing it to Nazis is anti-Semitic is stupid.
No, it's not stupid, but it also feeds into what these people are saying. Like, oh, you can't criticize Israel. God forbid you criticize Israel. Oh, the only reason why they're going into these camps and taking them down, they didn't for Chaz or BLM. It's because it's Israel. See how much control Israel has on the U.S. government? And this is exactly what feeds into that narrative. And Republicans can be out of touch all they want and think it's a messaging bill, and they're messaging to these, average independent Jewish voters, or even like Jewish voters that are unhappy with the Biden administration and what's going on. But you're also feeding those narratives that the Jews control everything thing.
Let's jump to this next story. From the post-millennial, 6 figures raised to throw rager for UNC frat boys who protected Stars and Stripes from Gaza protesters. I'd like to just give a round of applause to these young men. Bravo. Look at these guys. They were defending the American flag from the far-left extremists, and I respect it. Following the hoisting of the American flag back to its rightful place at the top of the pole at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, a group of frat boys prevented members of the Gaza camp from removing it for a second time to replace it with the Palestinian flag. The image of the young men protecting the Stars and Stripes has since gone viral, with one ex-user posting it alongside the hashtag Make America Frat Again, a play on Donald Trump's iconic Make America Great Again slogan. So here's a GoFundMe. Pi Kappa Phi men defending their flag, throw 'em a rager. 200,233. You got Bill Ackman right here, $10,000 donation. I'm going to hit refresh. Let's see what the number's at now. $230,000.
My friend called this the culture war Iwo Jima moment, right?
It's a good one.
That's what it is, though.
Well, people made a meme of the frat boys lifting the flag like the Iwo Jima photograph.
Well, and left-wing media hates guys in fraternities. Like, white guys in fraternities is the bane of all of feminism, left-wing media's existence. They represent something they don't like.
It's the president. Remember, feminists are all mad at the president or their dad.
Well, it makes me think, again, I've referenced this a couple times, but the Rolling Stone article where they're like, this one girl accused this fraternity, I think it was UVA, and then it turned out that girl made absolutely everything up, wasn't even at the school. Yeah. I don't even think she was in the state, and there was no acknowledgement of this. And so it's fun to see like guys who are just trying to live life, young men starting out, being like, well, you guys are protesting and we're going to leave you alone, but you can't take down the flag. Like, we are patriotic and we believe in this.
For this event, Trump needs to be there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, how
A
great
wager
would that
with
be?
Donald Trump. That would be
Yep.
the most amazing thing ever.
Donald Trump showing up to this event, celebrating these guys defending the American flag is what this country needs.
Yep.
That would be really cool.
And they can do it on the 4th of July.
One of the kids
At Trump Towers. Even
One of the kids had like apparently a military father, and he like wrote out a statement
Nice.
about what he saw and like how he didn't want the flag to touch the ground and how many people have died and sacrificed so much for that flag. And it was actually like really moving coming from
Yes.
somebody who you think is, to me, young, right? Like under 20.
But they're not
probably,
too
or
young to be
21.
principled, right? I mean, if the Gaza protesters
Yeah.
feel very strongly that Israel is the aggressor in this, I think it is great to see young Americans also saying, hey, we're putting America first. We believe in this country. You can't just be disrespectful to symbols of our nation while on a college campus in America.
That's how you know it's not about Israel, though, right? It's not about Israel and it's not about Palestine. Why would you have to denigrate our flag? Why would you have to denigrate America in order to fight about your cause? Because it's not about that, right? Why would you have to pull down our flag and put theirs up? Because it's not about Israel, Palestine. It's about your hatred of America.
Yep.
That's all it's about.
100%. I mean, there's a phrase that that has been making the rounds on the internet, and it's the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. And that's the way that this is panning out. And honestly, people may not acknowledge it, but that's really what the vast majority of the BLM riots were as well. You know, the narrative that we were sold about police going after innocent black men and killing innocent black men. Most people thought that there were many. There were people that were saying thousands died per year, and on average it was like 13 or 14 per year.
9 in 1 year.
Yeah, I mean
It's bad.
It's not good, but it's so dramatically different from reality. It is accurate to say that it's a lie. To say that thousands of people have died, and that has caused so much damage to the country
And turmoil.
so much damage.
I want to read the GoFundMe for you guys. This is John Noonan, who started, writes, commie losers across the country have invaded college campuses to make dumb demands of weak university administrators. But amidst the chaos, the screaming, the anti-Semitism, the hatred of faith and flag, stood a platoon of American heroes,
Yes.
armored in vineyard vines and Patagonia, fueled by Zin and White Claws. These triumphant Bohemians protected Old Glory from the unwashed Marxist horde, laughing at their shrieks and wails and shielding the stars and stripes from Soviet missiles. These boys, no, men of the UNC Chapel Hill Pi Kappa Phi, gave the best to America, and now they deserve the best. Help us raise funds to throw this frat the party they deserve, a party worth of boat shroud proletariats who did their country proud.
Yep.
Well,
Dude, I'm donating
shoot,
just for
sorry.
that write-up.
That write-up's great.
That write-up is fantastic.
So where are we thinking this is going to be hosted? Is it at UNC or Mar-a-Lago?
Mar-a-Lago.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
You should have it here.
Mar-a-Lago. I'd be willing to bet that, especially with the amount of money and attention they're getting, the amount of money they're raising, Trump and Mar-a-Lago would be like, yes, let's get. I mean, it expands upon the PR. It shines a light on virtue. It shows that there's positive reinforcement socially and culturally for defending this country and its flag amidst people screaming. And you can see in this photo they're having stuff thrown at them. They're like throwing liquids at him or something. And so these young men were willing to hold it to make sure it didn't touch the ground while they tried to put it back up on the flagpole. And so they get rewarded. How? Cash, party, social recognition, and then ancillary benefit. Donald Trump gets tons of PR. They do this at Mar-a-Lago. Trump shows up. He walks in clapping for them. He buys them all McDonald's.
Somebody watching knows Cash Patel, or somebody watching knows Don Jr. Put a bug in their ear. Tell Don. He'd love it.
They got to know about this already.
I want a Truth Social
I'll slide
post
it
by
in there.
the morning. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like this deserves immediate acknowledgement. Again, if we're looking at America's youth as these like Ivy League educated super progressives, I would much rather see these. And I've said it a couple times, these protests are happening across the country, but there are colleges where there is a more mixed demographic where it's not happening, right? And I think seeing guys like this step up and be like, well, you are doing. You're not telling them to break up their encampment. They're saying you can't do this to the flag, and that's a good message.
I want to stick up for Ivy Leagues just a little bit, and I'm going to say this because clearly I went to an Ivy League school twice.
Which one?
I went to Penn for my undergrad and grad, so I went there. But they're if you could say anything about them, the student base themselves. They're not all these people. They're not all leftists. Now, the staff, sure. But I remember like over and over arguing with people and there'd be some fringe lefties, but the righties, if anything, you could say they're feckless, right? Because they wouldn't stand up and say anything. They're like, I don't want to piss my teachers off. I don't want to piss off like potential job interest, right? I don't want to mess with my grades. I had somebody years after I would like fight in class. This guy was like one of my closest friends in school. We would study all the time. And he called me up years later and he was like, hey, can you help my brother get an internship for Congressman whoever? I'm like, yeah, but he's a Republican, right? And he's like, yeah, my whole family's Republican. I'm like, you
didn't
left
say
me out there
anything
for that long? And he's like, I don't want it to affect my grade. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to ruin and they have pressure from their friend groups. And when me and James go on these campuses, like Penn's campus, we go and ask them, what is a woman or can men menstruate? That was one of the videos like that we did. They are like, we know the answer. We don't want to be on camera. Please leave us alone.
You saw the video where the guy asks the girl how many genders there are, and then the girl's like, I want to say 2, and the other girl goes, stop, shh, stop. Everyone's like, nah, that video's got to be fake. And I'm like, maybe, I don't know, maybe.
No, it's always like that.
But my point is, I don't think you're going to find 3 actors that good to like do this bit. And I'm not saying they're the greatest actors in the I don't know, but it seemed natural.
We go to Penn's campus all the time. It's over and over again.
That's in Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the pressure to like that, if you're conservative on a college campus, that pressure of being like, it's just easier to get the good grade and say what they want me to say is very real. I also think it trains young conservatives to be docile and not to say anything. And yeah, I do beat up on the Ivies a lot. I just mean it in the sense that like, the Ivies were historically sort of the epicenter of education in America, and they did do interesting things, and there have been lots of really important people who have come out of Ivies. I mean, Donald Trump went to Penn, right? So did all of his children.
It's the conservative of the Ivies, if you're going to say that, because of Wharton and the business school.
And I think that's like, I think all college education is a mixed bag because there are good things that come out of a lot of colleges in the U.S. and then there are a lot of bad things. The problem with the Ivies, and I think this is probably, you might be able to speak to this better than I can, is that the majority of them, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, I think Brown is like this, they embraced progressivism so intensely and expected every other university to follow because they are the top tier, so to speak. They are the ones that you're supposed to strive for. If you get into this school, it's a big deal. And there is, to me, a certain level of arrogance that comes with that. And again, that's why seeing them, the students, they were particularly probably excited to see their applications of being like, well, I'm, anti-systemic racism or whatever, being the same students that are, starting to tear school apart is needed retribution, in my opinion.
It's definitely gotten worse, too, within the last, 5 to 10 years. It's gotten really bad. But what they will say, we had a basketball girl. She was like, I can't be on camera. I want to keep playing basketball. The school's gone a little crazy. I mean, if the majority of the people that you talk to, they're smart kids. They know the answers to the basic questions, but they're afraid of the social justice mob.
This has been going on for the past 10 years all over society.
Well, they need to
This isn't new. And to be honest with you, thankfully, it is breaking. I think we all kind of agree that there are places and people that are starting to say it's not worth the concern anymore. They're gonna attack me or they're strangling my industry or whatever it is. But people are starting to break free of that. But that has been a normal thing.
But that's why rewarding these guys and this is good. Right? Because
100%.
So
Absolutely.
We're saying that we finally see some people standing up and now we're going to reward you and you're going to get $200,000 and a party. It's fine to do the right thing and to say what you actually believe. I think this could be a really good turning point to get these kids out of that mindset. I was
in college during the 2016 election, and I remember how many of the fraternities had Trump banners and stuff, or I'd be in class and I had a political communications professor who asked us to say who we thought was going to win the election. And every guy at every fraternity was like, it's going to be Trump. It's going to be Trump. And so I find it sort of endearing that it's the same guys who are probably, not these guys because they're in college, but like the same type of young men who are in these fraternities are also the ones who are like, actually, we're behind the flag. You can't take this down. I think this is a value that they don't get enough credit for.
Let's jump to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. Huge news. I did not believe it when the story broke. Donald Trump will address the Libertarian Party National Convention. Okay, I as soon as I saw the story, the LP posted a tweet of Trump saying, I'm in. They said we invited him. I reached out to some contacts. I said, no way. And they're like, yes. And I said, I still don't believe it. Here's the release they put out. President Trump to address Libertarian Party concerns at National Convention May 25th. Libertarian National Party, the party of principle, announced today that President Donald J. Trump has responded to an invitation and challenge from the Libertarian Party to speak at its national convention and directly address concerns voiced by its members. President Trump will speak on Saturday, May 25th in Washington, D.C. It is worded a little bit weird, mind you. Have you noticed how they worded it? Trump has responded to an invitation and challenge from the Libertarian Party to speak at its convention. It doesn't say he responded saying he will. And directly address concerns, not directly address its members, and that he'll speak in D.C.
Are you thinking he's going to be like video conferencing in?
Maybe something like that. Yep. But either way, that's still big. But if he's in D.C. and it's in D.C., then he will. But maybe it's really just simple. They didn't work. Let me keep reading. They say members of the Libertarian Party will share a list of their top 10 issues with President Trump in advance of the convention, hoping to make an impact on the policy positions of a past and possibly future president. Angela McArdle states, for 50 years, we've been trying to get our candidates on the main stage with major party POTUS candidates, and we finally succeeded in bringing one to our stage. We will do everything in our power to use this incredible opportunity to advance the message of liberty. Okay, bringing one to our stage. Again, I hope it's not a video conference.
No, I think he's going to be a person. I think they're trying to avoid sounding like they're endorsing him.
Right,
like they want
right.
to hold his feet to the fire on what their issues are.
So I'll read some more. Libertarians are some of the most independent and thoughtful thinkers in our country, and I am honored to join them in Washington, D.C. later this month. Okay, there you go. Simple enough. We must all work together to help advance freedom and liberty for every American, and a second Trump administration will achieve that goal. I look forward to speaking at the Libertarian event, which will be attended by many of my great friends. We all have to remember that our goal is to defeat the worst president in the history of the United States, by far, crooked Joe Biden. If libertarians join me in the Republican Party, where we have many libertarian views, the election won't even be close. We cannot have another 4 years of death, destruction, and incompetence. We will work together and win.
This makes sense for him to come at it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit more. They say the theme of the 2024 LP National Convention is to become ungovernable. This was chosen following the previous years of unconscionable authoritarian actions by the United States federal and state governments, which saw citizens confined, indoctrinated, lied to, and inoculated against their will. The citizens of the United States must become ungovernable to regain their basic rights and freedoms. This year's convention will welcome world-renowned speakers, activists, and thinkers, as well as decide the Libertarian presidential candidate for the 2024 election cycle. There is no greater collection nor community of freedom, liberty, and independently minded people. Speakers confirmed thus far: President Trump, Dr. Peter McCullough, filmmaker and brother of Julian Assange, Gabriel Shipton, part of the problem host Dave Smith, freedom advocate, historian, and Bitcoin futurist Robert Breedlove, Joanne and Mark Skosen, longtime liberty activists, founders of Freedom Fest and the Anthem Libertarian Film Festival. More speakers will be confirmed in the coming months. I will say right now, we are not confirmed, but we are in having a conversation, in talks, simple, with LP about hosting Timcast IRL Friday at the convention. Not on the main stage or anything, but we'll have a room there where we can bring in various people who are there. Obviously, we're friends with many of these people, like Dave Smith and Angela have been on the show many times. So we're big fans of what they're doing in the Mises Caucus. When I heard this, I didn't believe it. I mean, look, I'm reading their press release for the first time on the show because we pulled it up, and I still didn't even believe it. And it's at the bottom, confirmed, Donald Trump speaking there on Saturday the 25th. And this is Memorial Day weekend, and I'm planning a vacation. Like, we're gonna have 3-day weekend. I'm gonna go. We're gonna like rent a boat and just go fishing or something. And then I found out Trump will be at a libertarian convention. I was like, we're going to the convention.
It's gonna be their biggest turnout ever.
Of course.
This is A third party. When's the last time this country has had a third party get recognition on a major in a major way like this? In my lifetime, unthinkable.
It's a smart move for him, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Really smart move.
It's kind of crazy to me that Republicans haven't done this in the past. A coalition government.
They just expect it. The Republicans have long expected libertarians to just vote with Republicans because they give the lip service, and so even though there are libertarians that are strongly vocal against Republicans or against Republican policies and stuff, they're still like, yeah, but we're better than the Democrats. And for the most part, for a long time, they were like, well, yeah, you actually are,
And how much of this is the effect of the Mises Caucus, right? I mean, I feel like the Libertarian Party itself has really changed in the last couple of years. Would I don't think
Donald Trump knows what the Mises Caucus is, and I don't think that he's talking to the Mises Caucus.
I think his staff knows who it is, and that's really who gets Donald Trump to these events. I mean, I think part of it is in the past, you're right, like Republicans kind of take libertarians for granted. On the other hand, the Libertarian Party is often very divided. I mean, they have issues of debating the border and all kinds of things. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually, the work of the Mises Caucus or the effect of the Mises Caucus.
So one of my favorite things is I've talked to Republicans and they say things like, if only the libertarians just voted for Trump, this wouldn't have happened. And then I'm like, let me stop you right there. Libertarians don't like you. Like, we can move on now. Like this idea, many Republicans just believe that libertarians are Republicans but want a little bit more. And I'm like, no, many libertarians outright detest the things you stand for. The Mises Caucus brings you a little closer on a lot of issues. And I think this is going to be really interesting. Many people in the Libertarian Party do not like Trump. I think it was the Libertarian Party of Louisiana tweeted out the picture of Trump's hair, and it said Trump is the opposite of a libertarian. And it's like, well, let me tell you, there are libertarians who don't believe in borders. And I've gotten to arguments with them. And I'm just like, you can be an anarchist and call yourself an anarcho-capitalist or whatever you want to call yourself, but libertarian implies some form of government. If there is some form of government to some capacity, there is a limit to which your government can extend, correct? That's called your border. Borders exist. And if you allow anyone to come in, they will exploit you and ignore your laws, even as few as you have. But I think now with the Mises Caucus, what you're seeing is a lot of people who understand the importance of borders, understand the importance of some governance, but limited governance, free speech, all that the First Amendment entails, Second Amendment, etc. I just wonder if people at the LP would actually consider voting for Trump. That's Trump's angle, obviously. He says it. If we come together, we win. How many libertarians are going to be like, this one time, I'll vote for Republican?
I think a good amount. I really do. I think a good amount. Especially if he's going and talking to them and he's basically raising awareness about, like, there's a lot of people who don't even know that the Libertarian Party exists. Let's be fair. There's like soccer moms that have no idea, right? He's giving them a platform and he's saying, hey, you are important. That matters a lot to people. I mean, even just with regular congressmen, when you help them with their constituent work, that matters to them, that you paid attention to them. That's enough.
Right. Trump addressing his concerns and the Libertarian Party trying to influence his policy positions, and Trump saying outright, I need your help. You matter.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I am so excited. This is like the coolest news ever. It also it boosts the Libertarian Party. And we just desperately need competition in politics.
I'm curious to see what the format is. They're saying they're going to send the list beforehand. Like, is someone moderating and taking questions? Is Angela going to be on stage with Trump? Because Trump is a monologuer, I think. I think he is really a solo show. Yep. So maybe he'll come pre-prepared with remarks, but,
Dave Smith sitting down with Trump, going over the top 10 issues would be the most viewed... Okay, probably not the most viewed podcast. Probably Joe Rogan interviewing his Sasquatch would be the most views, but you get my point. But
it would be deeply
huge.
meaningful. And I think it would mean a lot to liberty. Also, anyone who is interested in libertarianism, like, would search that video or be like, Trump, libertarianism, and it would be what comes up. I mean, it would have a lasting effect for generations who are trying to figure out how a Republican views libertarianism or what a Donald Trump presidency means for the potential libertarian movement in America.
I just made myself laugh, but also a little sad at the same time when I realized that If Joe Rogan interviewed some guy dressed as Sasquatch, it probably would get more views than a major political convention. And I'm just like,
people need entertainment. I think people do get burned out on politics, and I think that is one of Trump's strengths because it feels like a show. It feels like an activity. Lisa's nodding at me right now.
I am so burnt out on politics. I can't even go on Twitter.
Well, that's why you're gardening now.
I am. But yeah, it's a lot. I think that people are tired of it, but we'll see. I think this is good.
Good. This is historic. This is it, like the Libertarian Party being addressed by a major candidate for a rival political party. It's gonna boost them up. It's gonna be absolutely fantastic. I think Trump could actually win over enough because he only needs a small percentage, like single digits, to make him to become unbeatable.
I love everything you're saying, but I am almost positive some dumb libertarian is gonna get on stage naked or something, or do something like that. Someone's gonna run around with a cake on their head or something.
You are correct, but I was just
they're gonna
watching,
blow it. They're gonna blow it.
No.
Phil doesn't believe in you libertarians.
I was watching Trump just speak a few hours ago, and a guy's just like Uncle Sam, and he's like, look at me, he brings him up, shakes his hand. Then he bends over to pick something up and stands up and goes, you think Joe Biden can bend down like that? And everyone busts out laughing.
Yeah.
I hope so.
He handles those moments well.
Yeah, if a guy got naked at the convention or something
and
said,
got past Secret Service, that's the other part.
No. I don't think anyone's going to get anywhere near Trump. But like, if someone at the convention does something to make it, untoward or whatever, Trump would zinger him.
Yeah, I mean, he would.
Yeah. That Bill Barr zinger was like, that's got to be a top 10 zinger.
Look, he's the guy that said you'd be in jail. That was beautiful.
I know.
That was
he's
perfect.
Got amazing. I mean, I miss the Hillary Clinton Donald Trump debates. That was
great.
the golden age of television, in my opinion.
I'm watching some of his speeches, and I'm like, this man is back. The Bill Barr truth post. So I'm removing lethargic from my statement. I was just. It's top 10. Mm-hmm. Top 10 insult of all time was so good.
As the guy's endorsing him.
I know. It's absolutely amazing.
Look, and I think it's a reminder that Trump sort of forgives, but he doesn't really forget, right? Like,
nor should you.
And this is part of the interesting thing about a second Trump presidency, especially since he lost in 2020, which is like, who are you surrounding yourself with? Because I think a lot of people feel like his staff in 2016, like going into post 2016 election, sort of derailed some of the agenda he had laid out. That he had some questionable staffing choices, and so again, this I have learned from my mistakes, and I'll take away some of the negative adjectives, but I'm not fully forgiving you. Is an interesting take.
I think that Bill Barr did the right thing there by saying, like, it's not about me, it's about the country. I thought that was a really like top-notch move on his part. But back to the Trump being at the party, do you really think that he'll do like a question one-on-one? I don't think so. I think he'll go up like a campaign rally and give his little
impossible for me to see him doing anything other than like a full-on speech. But just the way they're saying, like, we're going to send you our top 10 issues, like. So Trump is then going to definitely incorporate them.
No, he'll ignore them.
He'll maybe respond to two. You would need someone on stage, like sort of like a town hall, to really get all of your question answers, I think.
But this is going to be interesting. Like, there are a lot of libertarians who hate Trump.
Yeah.
Hate. He's going to get booed and cheered as he walks on stage. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting.
I mean, it is good for the party to raise awareness and stuff like that. It's a good get for Angela. So I'm sure that's going to be a benefit for her career. I don't know how much Donald Trump is going to appeal to libertarians because he's kind of Trump all the time. You know what I mean? You don't really get a Donald Trump that's different in front of a different audience, and libertarians are they're different kind of people, man. So, I mean, I would like to see him, make some inroads, and I would like to see him convince some people to vote for him. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how it happens. Again, this is not me saying that I don't think it does, and I'm not saying I think it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I don't know how it does.
This will be very interesting.
I think he thinks it's going to go great. He's probably like, this is going to be awesome.
Of course he does.
But I don't think it could go bad.
I don't really see it going super bad either, unless like the left-wing media picks up like, oh, some people were booing at the Libertarian convention. But even then, like, who cares?
I think Trump thinks about it, and he's just like, I don't get the Libertarian vote as of now. If I don't get it after this convention, so what? If I win even one vote, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's jump to this story. James O'Keefe is back, ladies and gentlemen, with a massive expose a CIA agent, a project manager working in cyber operations for the CIA and NSA, contractor with top secret clearance working for Deloitte, Amjad Fassasi, caught in an undercover on undercover cameras, implicating the highest levels of the intelligence agencies, including the executive staff. We're talking about the director and his subordinates. Former CIA Director Gina Haspel, and I believe Mike Pompeo did the same thing too, kept information from Trump because we knew he'd effing disclose it. There are certain people that would give him a high-level overview, but never give him any details. You know why? Because he'll leak those details. He's a Russian asset. He's owned by the effing Russians. This is a guy, look at this. He says, quote, "We steal it," referring to information. "We hack other countries just like that." And so this is a major expose. I'll play a little bit of the beginning, and the CIA has issued a response. James says it appears he got fired over this, but we'll read the response in a second. Here you go.
I work in the intelligence community. I work in the CIA. I do cyber operations. I've been doing it for a long time.
So how long have you been working at the CIA?
Since 2008. I've also worked at NSA too. And then I have a TSSCI with a full scope polygraph. That means that I'm fully vetted.
Amjad Fassasi shows her his CIA identification badge.
No, where does it say?
It doesn't.
Hey, that's the point.
That's the point.
What's CMC?
China Mission Center, darling. That's my mission center.
Gotcha.
Amjad talks about how the CIA kept information from Trump.
Like working.
We kept information from him.
Say one more time.
We kept information from him.
From Trump?
Yes. He's an idiot. There are certain people that would give him a high-level overview, but never give it to any details. Do you know why? Because he'll leak those details.
Amjad Fassasi states the higher-ups within the intel community, including CIA directors Mike Pompeo and Gina Haspel, and the upper levels of their staffs colluded to withhold information from sitting President Trump.
So the agencies kind of like all got together and said, we're not going to tell Trump.
The higher-ups.
The higher-ups.
We put it this way, the executive staff, we're talking about the director and his subordinates.
Like what titles are they? They're
Director of the CIA.
director of the CIA would keep.
Yes.
Are you guys still watching him?
I would say yes.
Like, it sounds like you guys are still watching him and his team.
Of course we are. Nothing goes by without somebody watching.
Amjad Fassasi also states as fact that Trump is under constant surveillance and even claims they are spying on his ex-wife.
And we also have people that monitor his ex-wife.
So you guys had human sources,
How do you think we get information?
like wiretapping? Is that what?
Steal it.
How did you guys figure out that Trump was colluding with the Russians? Did you guys use...
It's just human intelligence.
So the intel community was able to use FISA to spy on Trump and his team. And that's how we found out that he was colluding with the Russians.
That's correct.
Was it the CIA or the NSA that spied on Trump?
So it could be all of them.
This guy's not
You're
suspicious
saying
at all
that
during this
This is crazy.
conversation.
Now look. James has CIA comment. The official appears to have been terminated as a result of our reporting today. When the CIA was asked for a comment, O'Keefe Media received an exclusive statement on the record from a CIA spokesperson. They said, "It was nice speaking with you. As discussed, you may attribute the following on-the-record statement to a CIA spokesperson. These claims about CIA are absolutely false and ridiculous. CIA is a resolutely apolitical institution that provides intelligence support to policymakers, including the President of the United States, irrespective of who occupies the office. We are a foreign intelligence-focused agency and do not monitor the former president. The individual making these claims is a former contractor who does not represent CIA." He showed a badge. So here's what's interesting. If he's currently a former contractor for the CIA, stands to reason that badge was legit. If he was claiming in the video he worked for the CIA, it stands to reason he did when he showed the badge. And now he's former because he got caught on undercover camera. You're not going to be good in intelligence if you're blabbing to some young girl you met on Tinder or something like this.
I don't know why
guy's-
these people do this all the time. Like, what are you doing that you're just like word vomiting at all these things that you know nobody is supposed to hear? Like, I
come
don't
on. Wait,
understand.
Lisa, I mean, come on, you get it. Like, women love it when guys blab about government malfeasance that they're involved in. It's just, guys, every woman is super impressed when you talk about the corruption you're involved in.
She was like hitting the points hard too. Like she
sounds like she's interviewing him.
She was 100% like not taking. He's like, hey baby, no. She was like, and what about this? Like, with,
Yeah, right.
She
sounds like she's a
direct
notepad, and she's like, "What's the CIA or the NSA?"
Yeah, I thought that she was reading questions off her phone, and this guy was like, "Okay, great." Like,
well,
you must have had one too many glasses of wine because.
For the sake of James's career, you both need to reaffirm to the people of the world that women are deeply impressed by men who explain the corruption they're involved in.
True, we are.
Yeah.
We are so. We are
especially
so
the first date. That's all you talk. Don't talk about your interests. Don't talk about your hobbies.
Tell me right away.
Don't talk about it. Just talk about any secrets. If you've been told by your government agency not to say something, that's what girls want to hear. That's all
lie. I honestly 100% do want all the tea. I have so much gossip on so many people. People tell me everything. I love it.
I honestly think that's why this guy is not like that confused that this, like, he thinks it sounds impressive, and also the fact she's like, wait, what? You did what? Because girls like gossip. He's like, just classic women. They want to know all the details.
Girls do like gossip.
I gotta be honest. It is so weird every time this happens, and it happens in this exact way where it's like, the guy's like, hey girl, want to hear about some corporate malfeasance I'm involved in? Criminal activities and felonies? I tried to subvert the U.S. government.
So
you into
cool.
it? She's
so
like, yes.
cool.
And he's like, you are? I'll tell you more. It is crazy. All of these people, they just spill the beans. I mean, I think it's funny that we're more flabbergasted by the fact that this guy just let it rip, as opposed to the fact that here is a guy who worked for the CIA, outright saying at the highest levels they subverted the Trump administration to make him ineffective.
How stupid is the guy working for the CIA, though, that he doesn't know he's being set up by this chick? And then the way that she's interrogating him, she was interrogating him. That wasn't like date questions. That was an interrogation. But anyway, but we knew this. Like, so here's the thing. I said, this isn't anything we didn't know. Earlier, Tim, you corrected me. It's like, no, we assumed. And then this is what we've all expected all along. To see somebody say it is a little jarring.
Right. So a lot of people responded to James, or there have been some tweets, and they were like, we knew this. And James is like, where was the proof? Right. Of course, everybody, we know about the meeting with Comey and Biden and who was it, Yates and things like this. But now you have a guy, whether he wants to be on the record or not, just blabbing about here's everything we did, why we did it, how it was done, and what they're probably still doing. Now you have a guy on camera. There you go. The funny thing about all of these undercover videos, James nails this. He's like, I just publish people's mouths moving. They're saying things. They say, James did this, James did that. I'm like, there's a video of a guy. His mouth is moving. Words are coming out. Don't look at me. He said it. I do not believe a spokesperson for the CIA. I remember when Deepwater Horizon happened. Do you remember this? The oil rig disaster, 13 years ago? Mm-hmm. And they put out all these statements. Fukushima happens. They put out all these statements. They're all bunk nonsense. Everyone knows spokespeople are liars. Everybody knows Karine Jean-Pierre is going in there and just word vomiting all over the floor. I don't know why anyone listens to it. You know what I want to hear? I want to hear the undercover recording of what they actually say behind closed doors, because that's more likely to be true.
Do you know who I think the real winner of the Biden administration has been? Jen Psaki. Because she was there in the beginning. She got to be like, look, we won. Donald Trump bad. She bowed out, got a multi-million-dollar contract with the mainstream media. Like,
is it?
I don't know.
She's a hate the face, though. I mean, it's I don't know.
She's a what?
Sucks. I hate the face. Oh. You just look at her face and you hate her no matter what. Like, I don't care what her.
Still, though, like,
she
gets to say, I was in the
worst.
Biden administration, but she doesn't have to answer any of the end of 4-year questions, right? She's not having to explain the border crisis or the economy. Like, she had great moves. It's with the CIA contractor. I almost wonder if that was part of it. Like, he's like, oh, I can say whatever I want because people hate Trump so much.
That's what I was going to say. This is like, they all have Trump derangement syndrome, and they think because they hate him so much that everybody else hates him so much, so that these people would be impressed. They would never say anything. They would never repeat it because they're happy it's being done.
Because they're not saying, oh, it's because we had an agenda and he wouldn't listen to us. He's saying Trump is stupid. They're all like very intense personal character attacks, and it's to make him look like he is somehow part of this powerful elite that actually controls the country, because Donald Trump shouldn't, even though he got voted in at one point. Like,
I know.
It just doesn't make sense. But again, like, this seems like possibly if you're in, a mega liberal city, a city that consistently goes blue, you assume whoever you're randomly bumping into thinks the way you do if you're, on this side of the narrative.
I was like with people and the dogs, like dogs walking my dog with other guys in the park, and this older man starts talking to me, and he says like, he starts kind of hinting at politics, and I was like, look, buddy, I'm really far right. Like, just
Did you say that?
Yeah, that's what I said immediately. But you get nervous, like thinking like everybody here is in this city.
What did he say when you said that?
He goes, high five, I knew I talked to you for a reason. Like that actually worked out pretty well. But for the most part, like I tell them up front, but you're always anticipating, especially being in a lefty city, that you're going to run into left-wing people more than not.
And I think the left-wing people are, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised with this, but less tolerant of it. Conservatives are used to having to be the ones to be like,
true.
you think differently than I do. Whereas, liberal people are like, how dare you say you voted for anyone but the people on the ticket that I like.
So true.
Well, that's because the way that the left has characterized the left and the right for so long is just as simple as they're the bad guys and we're the good guys. It's if you vote for any right-leaning policies, it's because you have a moral failing. There is something wrong with you. So,
the challenge is with the internet these days is that everyone has a podcast. The problem without the internet was that only the deep state had the podcast. You know what I mean? It's like, damn. It's like there's no happy medium. And I'm just thinking about, these people you're mentioning, like if you don't support the ticket that I'm on, there are all of these people on social media that are putting on these characters. They're grifting. There's one guy that's getting a lot of attention because all he does is just scream and look like he's going to burst a blood vessel in his eye and then collapse. He was that guy who was, I can't remember the video, but he's just the guy who's like, why are you voting? Donald Trump is corrupt. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. He's got a bunch of these. And it's like, why are you talking like that? It's a performance. And so many people are doing it and they're falling for this stuff. This guy had one video where he's like, Donald Trump was in a scheme to put out misinformation to cheat the election. And now we know that 2016 was stolen through Trump's criminal actions. And I'm like, it's not a crime to make claims in the press. That's not illegal. You can say there's fraud if you're selling a product and you mislead someone as what the product does to take their money from them. Trump did not do that, nor is there evidence so far that Trump was actually involved in any kind of scheme at all. But there are these people who are putting on this performance. Then you end up with people following them and getting their news from random people who have no idea what they're talking about. A good example being Bill Maher. Bill Maher's, I'm joking, but he's a good example of before the internet, only the deep state had the podcast. And Bill Maher's a moron. It's a guy who doesn't even read the news. Shout out to when he was reading the quote from Jack Posobiec, which was an obvious joke that Jack told while laughing. And he was shocked, clutching his pearls, going, Jack, we didn't overthrow democracy, but we'll endeavor to try again? How could this be? And it's like, Jack was laughing as he was saying this and smiling as the crowd laughed at the joke. It was called sarcasm. But people are informed by these people, and that's why you end up with Trump derangement syndrome.
But he thinks even though it's sarcasm, like that there's a hidden under meaning, like he was framing it as sarcasm, but he really meant it. Like that's what they're that deranged that that's what they say. Like I think Bill Maher really believed that Jack was serious about that.
Nah, no, wait. You could tell when Batia was like, that's a joke, Bill. He's like, as Bill's reading it, you sort of see the look in his eye where he's thinking to himself, like, I'm reading a joke, aren't I?
Well, that also means, I think I said this at the time when this happened, that someone on his staff was like, Bill, look what they said. And he was like, really? This is what happens at CPAC? I've always heard it's the worst place on earth, but now I know. Like, somebody set him up to look stupid, or he wants his viewers to not believe it's a joke. Either he's in on it or he's being manipulated, and either one's not a good look.
I don't know if it's manipulation, but he has dumb staff who get their news from TikTok, and they saw the out-of-context clip, probably from MSNBC, and then said, here's a quote from Jack Posobiec, and then Bill's like, uh-huh. And then on the show, he's like, look at this. Here's a quote. And then he read it and was like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, okay.
I just read a joke and thought it was real. And then he goes, well, don't quit your day job. It's like, Bill, Jack Posobiec is allowed to make jokes sometimes. You don't have to be a comedian to make a joke sometimes. Everybody does. Don't quit your day job. Jack Posobiec is a host on a news podcast. And I believe he writes and he tweets and he does a media. And so sometimes he will tell a joke. He's rather successful. In fact, he has millions of followers. But Bill Maher was embarrassed by what he said.
Also, I think Jack being at CPAC is essentially part of his day job. Like, everything he was doing. Okay, Bill, he'll continue on. Thank you for the endorsement.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Word of mouth really is the best thing to help the podcast grow. And head over to timcast.com, click join us for several reasons. Around 10 p.m., I'm gonna give it a little bit extra time as we get started to make sure everyone has a chance to tune in. We will be debuting All That Remains' new single, Divine. Phil Labonte has graced us with the music video. This will be is this the first time it's going to be publicly displayed? So technically it's not public. It is to the public, but it's for members only.
Yeah, members only.
So. It's an exclusive listening party. That's pretty cool.
The first time we're going to play it is going to be tonight or at the after party. And then the next time will be midnight on Liquid Metal tonight. They're going to start playing it on Sirius Liquid Metal for the next... They're playing it like every hour for a day. But debuts here, and then they do it for a day. Then the video goes on Friday. So that's exciting. Cool. It's been a long time.
What's the genre and subgenre? Like, how would you...
It's a metalcore. It's probably the safest thing. I mean, All That Remains has been a metalcore band since, we're one of the first people to kind of start playing metalcore. So
I just want to say this because, but the guitar and the drums and the vocals, just everything about it, really, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I love the guitar. Absolutely. It's a great song. We're going to play that. I am honored that you would debut it on the members only show. So, but that's going to be our uncensored members only call-in show, where we will debut Phil's new song, then take calls from all of you guys who are members. And here's the cool thing. Go to timcast.com, click join us. When you're a member for at least 6 months, you get upgraded to the submissions room. If you sign up at the $25 per month level, you're instantly able to submit questions. It's a screening process, either time or money, because we have activists and weirdos who try to come in and be disruptive. So we had to have some kind of barrier to make it a little harder. But when you submit a question, the community actually votes on which questions they want to see asked on the show. So it's really, really great. You can submit your questions and then actually call in and talk to us. And it's basically what funds everything we do, you guys being members. But we'll go back to reading your super chats. And let me YouTube is a slow, overloads the browser. And we got a lot of good super chats today. So, and also shout out to James O'Keefe for the amazing reporting. T-Bomb says, howdy, people. Token Black Guy says, howdy, people. They both beat Clint. And Robert De La Cruz says, where the hell is Clint Torres?
Is Clint in there at all? Is he okay?
He's not here.
So there has to be a Clint Torres search party?
I see him on Twitter still.
And we also
Maybe
lost...
he's mad.
We lost I'm Not Your Buddy guy.
Oh, what happened to him?
He hasn't posted a super chat in a while.
Yeah.
Or did he rebrand and we don't realize it?
It's true. It's been Clint the whole time.
Could be.
All right. All right. Big 7588 says, we were warned by punk rock. Dead Kennedys, kinky sex makes the world go round. Well, I guess.
Phil, do you have any prophecies on your new album that you want to share with us? Any predictions about politics?
No, I don't.
I bet he does, and he's just being modest.
Let's read some more. Matthew Hammond says, Lisa, could we get a culture war with Richard Barris of the People's Pundit, Robert Barnes, J.D. Vance, and Scott Pressler to discuss the populist movement after Trump?
How many seats do you think are in this room?
Listen, always. I saw that come over the super chat, and I took a screenshot of that so I can remember whatever you said. So I do pay attention to what you guys say. So yeah, I already did take a screenshot of that.
That's why she has to take breaks from Twitter sometimes, because she gets fired up.
Correct.
And then people think you're booking IRL guests, and they're like, why?
I get that all the time. Well, how come so? I was like, I do not book for IRL. It is not the same. It's a completely different thing.
I am really excited for Connor Tomlinson, Carl Benjamin, Phil discussing liberalism.
Yeah, that's going to be
It's going to be like, you know what we need to do for that episode? We need to get like big chairs with like velvet backs that are long and corncob pipes and like velvet robes.
Maybe we'll get big wigs, big white wigs.
Sit back and... Well, I think when Locke was writing about it,
the table has to be stacked with leather-bound books.
Yeah.
Yes.
I back this. I'm fully back this.
That would be fun. I think we could easily get those chairs, and that would be hilarious.
I'd be the best.
I'll put like a fake film of stained glass on the windows right there, so you can really feel like you're in.
I will order the robes.
I'm
so sitting there in robes.
I'm so into it.
We'll get really nice pipes, but they'll have bubbles. No, I don't want to do any of that. We can't smoke in here.
I don't know. The robe thing's hilarious.
The robe will be fun. It'll be fun. Let's go. Grofty says 25 months. Wow, a member for 25 months is too short. Be the voice of your fellow humans or chicken buck. We're really excited about the new Chicken City that we're building. the outdoor portion will actually have a roof. So the idea with the first Chicken City was indoor and outdoor section. And then we realized it doesn't work. The whole thing's got to be covered, but just slightly less. So the idea is we want sunlight and we want open air and exposure, but the rain really destroys everything. It rips apart the ground, it erodes, we can't repair it. So we're like, we're going to cover it, but still make sure that Chicken City gets some sunlight and some protection from the elements at the same time.
I'm going to donate dandelions. That way the yolks can be real orange.
Is that what happens?
Yeah, it's like the
pollen or something?
No, it starts with a C, whatever. But the more they eat dandelions and certain kind of flowers and stuff,
dandelions were brought here by the colonists. It was medicinal and they're food.
Yeah,
they're not native here.
You can fry them up actually, and it's actually pretty good. That you can fry them up and make them little patties and stuff.
Yeah, it's like an Appalachian thing, especially. They batter and fry dandelions, and they supposedly taste like deep fried mushrooms.
I love regional culture.
I'm just afraid that there's like pesticides and everything. You know how like people are like, oh, I'm going to grow my own stuff now. I'm afraid to like even grow my own stuff because I feel like the soil that they bag us up is tainted. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like everything's tainted anyway. So I'm afraid to eat like wild dandelions, even if I wash them and whatever.
I bet you could find a soil brand that's like very like nothing has been added to this, but it is hard. You can't escape all kinds of things. I hear this about like water. You know, even if your city is like, oh, we filter it, you really can't trust it at all.
I don't trust anything.
It's a fun way to live.
I know it's awful.
Token Black Guy says Timcast should start a new show with Lisa, Josie, and Hannah Claire and call it Based AF.
That's a fun name. I like that.
The morning thing would be a good idea, like a ladies' morning thing.
That's the plan.
The problem is I live in Philadelphia.
Josie lives in Florida.
Exactly. So what we wanted to do was basically the View, but with sane women, and not ill-informed, overly emotional women.
We could try virtual. I'm just saying.
Or we could make it a seasonal thing and we go on a girls' road trip and then we see how long we last until we're sick of each other.
Can we go to a dude ranch, please? It's my ultimate dream vacation to go to a dude ranch.
I'm in. And then
we were thinking of using the old studio for it, of doing like mid-morning, like moms
I gotta find
discussing issues.
Wow, I'm being profiled against.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim hates me because I don't have kids.
Well, you're on this show.
No, I'm
so.
just kidding.
I'm the mom. But no,
hey, moms deserve to talk too. You guys have rights.
Well, the thing is, it's fascinating looking at the podcast metrics. Women do not listen to culture and news and politics. They listen to true crime.
Yep.
And makeup.
True crime and relationships. And
yeah.
I have always thought we needed those as brands, but
I mean,
Alex Clark does pretty decent with that, with politics. Mm-hmm.
Tales from the Inverted World is kicking off this Sunday. I will be joining for the first episode with Shane Cashman. And I don't know what the subjects are, but I'm probably going to be jealous of this show because it's call-ins from people who have paranormal experiences and mysteries. So it's a live show, not too dissimilar to the format that we do, but the point of the show is, and I'll tell you this now, become a member at timcast.com as we're setting up the call-in portion for Tales from the Inverted World, because everybody who's got a UFO experience, a ghost experience, a cryptid experience, maybe government agents or something, or just you have a story about some weird paranormal or unexplained phenomenon, that's the point of the show, is take those call-ins, have the caller tell their story, and then discuss it with the host and the guest, and then do maybe like 3 or 4 callers per episode.
That's cool.
I love these shows when like some old dude calls and he's like, let me tell you about the ghost who's been haunting my family.
Do you
and you're like,
them,
whoa.
though?
I don't care.
Look, we have a show to figure this out now.
I don't
do
care.
a little bit.
It's Sunday night. The lights are turned low. And there's this grisly old man telling you about the strange velvet figure that keeps walking through his hallways, but no one can catch him. And then one day his grandmother was pushed down the stairs, but no one was there.
My family
They brought
has
an
stories
exorcist,
like that.
and yeah, those stories are awesome.
I'll reach out to I can reach out to Steve Gonzalez from Ghost Hunters.
Yeah,
he actually
be a great guest.
He played drums in the first band that I was in. So
really?
From back in the day.
Great
when I was
guest
a
for
teenager.
Culture War.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we'll grab some more. But that's going to be a Sunday. I don't know the exact time, but it's going to be Sunday evenings. So that's when we're gonna bring in callers. The idea is, for the most part, it's like if you're a member of Timcast, you can submit your stories. But I think we'll probably also have people submitting through email as well. And ideally, it's members because that's the simplest way we have to run a call-in show and screen guests for a live show. The challenge is, I don't know if there's a big enough pool of stories through just the member base.
Would you do like a voicemail box where people can like call in and leave like a summary of their story and you could like contact them?
I think they just email in, say like, here's my name, here's my story.
I didn't know if you'd want to play their audio on the show or something.
Well, no, like they talk live on the show. So they actually call in and have a conversation about the story. So it's like, tell us your story. And then people will tell their ghost stories. And I think a lot of people have these stories they want to tell, but this is like the only kind of show where you get them out there. You know what I mean?
I think this is a fun idea. Yeah. I think it'll work. I think you can vet people enough. I mean, what are they going to go say random stuff? It's not a political show.
Absolutely
it's like
do.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking the voicemail thing. Like if somebody were called in and was like, here's my story or here's like whatever it is, then you can be like, here is the audio recording, but then you can't interact with them.
Yeah, it's really about telling the story and then asking questions like, wait. So you're saying that the stairs were covered in water? And they're like, yeah, you know, like what? Like that interaction is what really gets it going. All right, here we go. Paul Tascalo says, I just randomly discovered the U.S. is using Ukrainian military transport airplanes, Antonov AN-12BK, to do migrant flights, importing from border towns to U.S. interior. Check my pinned tweet, real PJ Paul. I think I heard that as well. J.W. Dickinson says, I'm still waiting for a K-Cup coffee multi-pack so that I can gift it to a friend to force him to buy from you depending on his flavor of choice. Yeah, we need to get that. I forgot what the reason was. We gotta figure that one out. You can always just send him Appalachian Nights because that seems to be everyone's favorite, and it's like the only coffee that I drink. I can tell when the coffee changes. You know, it's like Allison will be making espresso or coffee in the morning, and I'm like, what is this? She's like, oh, well, you know, I had this other bag, and I knew it.
You're like, not in my household.
I'm like the only person that doesn't drink coffee, so I've never had it.
You and the Mormons.
And,
Maybe it's because you haven't had Appalachian
like
Nights.
Tea. Maybe that's why.
You should try it. It's good.
We should make tea for people like me.
We should actually. We're getting there. Like, we want to do a lot of things. We want to do, like, obviously hot cocoa, and we want to do cold brew cans and energy drinks and protein. And so we worked a lot of this stuff out, but there's only so much manpower, time, and energy, and we really got to get the coffee shop open. So we're in the drawing and permitting process, which takes forever. It's crazy. We were supposed to open a year ago, and then contractors didn't work out. And then we got new contractors who didn't work out. And now we have a really amazing team of contractors that seem to just be able to do anything and everything instantly and super quick, the best guys we've ever had. And now things seem to be moving along. And so once we get the permitting process done, it'll be a couple months. But of course, we're delayed. And everyone's like, Tim, you can say it'll be June or July. And I'm like, okay. Now they're like, oh, definitely not June or July. And I'm like, are you kidding? So
contractors are notoriously the worst. They'll start a job, they'll take half your deposit or your money, and then they don't show up anymore. And they're just like, you're like, hey, you have this money.
Not the current guys we have, though. These guys, it's just like...
Well, they rock, yeah.
Yeah, we needed trim put in. After that, we changed the lights, and it was like the next morning I walk in, it's done. I was like, whoa. Like, wow. Shout out.
So, you know, I could have put that quarter round up there for you with a Brad nailer, but...
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the hardest thing in the world, but it was just like they got it done.
Nice. It was nice that they did it that fast. And this whole place looks great. It's my first time here.
So. All right.
It's cool.
Super Mercer Bro says, hey, Phil, huge fan. You too, Tim. Are you doing anything VIP or meet and greets? I'm 33 and going to take my 8-year-old to his first concert for his birthday gift. He's super excited. P.S. We're in AZ.
Yes, there will be meet and greets. Go to allthatremainsonline.com for information on meet and greets and tickets and stuff.
Purple says, doesn't Matt Walsh work for Jews? No. I believe that Jeremy Boring is he Catholic?
Catholic, yeah.
He's Catholic. Matt Walsh is Catholic, but Ben Shapiro, as part owner, is Jewish, but I think that only means Jew, not Jews. Also, I think there's a gross overestimation of the, like, I think following the Candace thing, people genuinely believe that, like, Daily Wire is preventing people from being critical of Israel. I don't think that's the case.
I agree.
But I do think, like I think Ben and Jeremy both said something like, we have our limit, where if you're not in line with what our company is doing, then you're not going to work here or whatever. Like, we're going to part ways. Matt Walsh this is not the first time he's criticized something pertaining to Israel. They've had on Daily Wire's Backstage, Matt Walsh has discussed and debated with Jeremy and Ben on some of these things. And Matt's great. Everyone loves him. I don't know.
I think that Candace didn't really want to be there anyway. Everybody was kind of like unhappy and looking for an out. I feel like that whole thing was going on for like a year anyway. So
I think it may have had something to do with her saying that Trudeau's wife was a man. My conspiracy theory was that she was like, I went out of my contract, and they're like, we can't. You have a contract, you got to finish it. And she's like, okay. And then she went on her show and said, Bridget Macron is a man. And then they were like, okay, we get your point. Well, you can leave your contract.
It seemed like she and Ben were sort of mutually critical, and it doesn't seem like it was a good fit. Hopefully, splitting ways works out better for everyone.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm so sick of like
It's just so hard to like speculate on another company's internal politics based on Twitter wars.
My attitude kind of is like, I don't know that I disagree with the Daily Wire or like Ben to an extreme degree. I obviously disagree on like funding of Israel. I'm more America first. Ben thinks we should be supporting and funding Israel, but it's also kind of obvious he is Jewish. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of obvious. But the Daily Wire and we here at Timcast and many other people in the libertarian, post-liberal, former disaffected liberal overlap on 97% to like 90% of things. I'll have a conversation where I say I disagree, and then I'll shake hands and say thank you for agreeing on almost all of the things that we need to win.
I don't understand why people get so personally invested. Like these people are so personally invested in these hosts or what they think is going on behind the scenes. They have no idea what's going on, right? These people are real people, and because like I can watch Ben Shapiro and realize what I don't agree with him on, what I think he's wrong on, but still like him and still see the value that he adds to the situation. And I can do that with Crowder. I can do that with Candace. I can do that with you, each and every one. Like, I don't understand why these people get like, you're acting like they're talking about your mother. Like, well, it's weird.
It's like Ben will say 99 things that you're like, that's right. And then he says, but I'm also pro-Israel, and I think we should be funding Israel. And then instantly they're like, I am unfollowing and unsubscribing from the Daily Wire because the one thing you said crossed the line for me. And my attitude is like, okay, well, then you got to do that. Like, if you don't want to support them or whatever, fine. My attitude is more just there's varying degrees of conflict. A far-left communist who wants to, like, sterilize kids. Yeah, we are adversaries in this culture war. And then, like, some current liberal who is like agrees that we shouldn't be doing those things, but wants to vote for Biden anyway. Okay, you're someone that I'm going to debate, but I'm not going to insult you. We're gonna have a conversation. And then you've got someone like Ben, where we agree on a lot of things, and then disagree on like foreign funding. And I'm like, but I mostly agree with him. So it's like, it's great. Thank you for helping us win where we need to win, and we can disagree where we disagree.
Yeah. I agree. Everybody hates the Daily Wire so much, or at least I feel like in a lot of my circles. And I'm like, I love the Daily. I watch the Daily Wire all the time.
Right.
And I'm further right than all of them.
And it's also too, I think like, I think Cassandra was saying this about Matt Walsh. Like, she doesn't like Ben, but she loves Matt Walsh.
I love Michael Knowles now. I shifted my love. I love Michael Knowles right now.
Well, and I think that'd be a sign of a good network, right? If there are hosts that you can't stand, but other ones that you love, it's better than being like, yeah, I kind of like a couple of them, and they all kind of say the same thing.
Yeah. I think Walsh and Knowles are both geniuses. Like, Michael Knowles' speeches impressed me greatly. I was like, I can't remember the last time I was just watching it. I was like, this man is a genius. He's absolutely fantastic. And Matt Walsh is also great. I disagree with Matt Walsh on a handful of things, and that's great. But I'm just like, I watch their clips and I'm like, these guys are fantastic. No wonder they've built such a massive following and have made so much money for the Daily Wire and themselves.
I admired Michael Knowles' personality. He's so like kind and sweet, or something.
He can play the guitar and sing too.
Yeah, easy and like fun about him. And even when he's talking about serious issues that he can be hard on, I'm a fan.
I do think it's funny though. Like, I don't watch Ben Shapiro. And everyone's like, he's the guy who runs the Daily Wire. I watch his clips sometimes when I see him, but like I more frequently will see Matt Walsh's stuff. I don't watch a lot of their stuff, but Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles I watch relatively.
I like the
often.
Morning Wire. It's like set up like NPR. It's real quick, 15 minutes. It's easy, but
I like the Daily Wire.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's. And they're doing a new show that's coming out. Animated cartoon.
Are they?
Like, I think Adam Carolla's in it. They're doing great stuff. I'm jealous for sure.
You did cool stuff like the car. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah, we got a car. Yeah, Cody Dennison, shout out. We're really excited.
Awesome.
Sick.
Gonna be fun. I think he's got a race on Saturday. Is that right?
I think he was saying Saturday.
Yeah. Man, it's
Usually
too bad.
they're
I'm
on-
going to be in.
I
I'm going
think
to be in
it's on
Florida.
Sunday, actually.
Sunday?
I mean, they usually are on Sundays.
Okay. I think a lot of them are on Friday, actually. Yeah. Yep. Let's go. Let's grab some more super chats. Daniel John Mihal Jovi says, "Hey Tim, fan from the land down under. Oh, you come from the land down under. Nice. What's your take on the Australian government trying to censor content on X? Our government officials are scared of being criticized. Your thoughts?" I think they want to censor content outside of Australia too.
I think you're right,
dude. Australia is a crackpot country. Like it's got cool people. Shout out to Richie Jackson, who is I think is both Kiwi and Australian. And I know a lot of people from Australia, and they're great. And then the government does all these weird crackpot things. It's not too much. It's like Canada too. There's a lot of great people in Canada. I got a lot of Canadian friends, and then their government does this weird crackpot stuff. It's unfortunate.
They lock pregnant women up for Facebook posts. That was them, right? Not the UK. Is it them or the UK?
Australia?
It was, yeah, they were.
Australia
they were going
created the
crazy.
concentration camps where they took indigenous kids, Aboriginal kids,
Right.
and they locked them up, and they were like, "It's not a concentration camp." And then the kids escaped and were hunted down and rearrested.
I totally remember that.
Yeah, dude, crazy. There was the video where the guy, they pull up in a van to his house, and they were like, "Sir, you took a COVID test not too long ago, and it came up negative, so we're going to quarantine you." And he's like, "Well, all right then." And he just walks into the van, and then they were like, "We haven't seen him since." And I was just like, okay, like, wow. That's kind of wild that people are just like, yeah, sure, no problem. And they just get in the van and get taken off and then don't know where they went. But, you know,
I think that happens here.
I was in Belgium a while ago, and there was this guy who was, 6 foot tall and made of muscles. And I asked him if he spoke my language, and he handed me a Vegemite sandwich.
Oh, so gross.
You know what that is. Yeah. All the fans of Men at Work were like, okay, Tim, rolling their eyes. Men at Work are awesome, by the way.
They're a great band.
How Overkill is just a great song. Someone put on the Men at Work playlist like a week ago, and now all the Men at Work songs are, I come from the land down under.
That's in my head now, by the way.
Such a good
since you
song.
Since you said it.
All right. Todd B says, Tim, did you see that the anti-protest in CA apparently started from an attack earlier that day on an Israeli girl that left her unconscious? Oh, and please check out Afro Man's new song just released. I did. So a woman got attacked. She had a flag. They put her in the ER. And then people got pissed. And so, and then the left was like, they attacked us. And it's like, bro, y'all took space and land, and violence begets violence. I mean, like, what do you think's going to happen? And also shout out to Afro Man, who made the Hunter Got High song. I believe that was Bass Records too. Shout out to Bass Records. And that was so good. They got Afro Man to sing Hunter Got High. Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah. Classic. Let's go. The Sinister Sibling says, the anti-Semitism bill and these scenes at the colleges only further convinced me that the separation of church and state was a terrible idea.
Correct.
No.
Ooh, a debate. Maybe it's
Yes.
a culture war episode.
You have 1 minute.
Kidding me.
Well, he knows I want a Christian nation. And look,
Theocratic fascism.
100%. Well, not fascism, but I
That's
want
Matt
like
Walsh's joke, I think.
No, I honestly think that like this is because I said I wasn't gonna say this, but here we go. I want a Christian nation to have Christian people living with Christians. Israel can have a country with Jewish people. Muslim countries have that. Now, listen, I'm not saying that the Christian countries, you can't live here if you're something else, but I want our morals and values codified into law. I think that that's the only.
Well, and we were founded out of a Christian worldview,
Yes.
so
What
it's a
morals
return
and
to
values are not codified into law that you feel should be?
The way that marriage is, the way that
So then,
certain relationships are. I mean, there's all
ending-
kinds of things. Abortion. I mean, what do you want me to say? There's a ton of things.
Well, I mean,
Abortion isn't codified. It should be. It should be murder. I mean, I can keep going.
okay, but the point that I'm making is
Mandatory church on Sundays.
I'm fine with that. Actually, I liked it when Pennsylvania had like on Sundays you can't like buy beer. I think even now in Pennsylvania you still can't supposedly buy a car on
Yeah,
Sundays, right?
in Virginia,
Like,
you can't.
Can we start like
No,
observing these
no,
things? Why?
No, because I don't want to.
But it took away. But it took away from families and from like that rest time alone. Now we're going, and God wanted
created
us to
a
take
work-centric
Yes.
culture.
So,
Yeah.
Lisa, you're completely wrong.
That's
You're
fine.
completely wrong. Okay, what we need is for our police to be instructed by the priests and to. I'm kidding.
I think that we would be, before we need to make significant changes like that, I think if we just actually enforce the law that we already have, that would probably take care of a lot of the problems. I mean, people are talking about we talked about the new law that they just passed about hate speech and stuff like that. We have sufficient property laws to take care of it. They were getting wrapped up because of the property laws.
Hate speech is dumb. Like that, I think that's dumb, and we should
What
enforce
do you
laws in the
think?
books.
What do you think the Christians are going to do? I'm going to say Jesus Christ, and they're going to throw me in jail.
Do you know that Mother's Day tends to be the lowest crime rate the day that has the lowest crime rate in most cities?
Wow.
And I find that really interesting, right? I mean, it's Mother's Day, not
Mama
Father's
doesn't
Day.
play around.
Well,
Right. And also, you're supposed to be with your mom. You're supposed to be with your family. I think theoretically, our laws are supposed to help reinforce our cultural values.
Correct.
And you could go over which ones are supposed to be where and what infringes on freedom. But ultimately, Christianity supports a strong family unit, and that is important for the culture of a nation.
Remember that video where there was like that teenager at a riot protest thing in like LA? And the mom saw him and she grabbed him and she was like screaming at him and she was like hitting him with like a shoe or something.
Awesome. Yeah.
And the kid's like, Mom. And she's like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? And she like drags him away.
We need more of that.
Well, how many
Good
times do we
moms.
see things happen where we're like, where are these people's parents? Like, where is someone saying like, you're acting ridiculous, or hey, you're loved and affirmed at home and you don't need to do these crazy things for attention online?
They're so nuts and narcissists. They're cheering them on, thinking they're going to get some Facebook likes out of it too. Like, look at my daughter. These people are nuts.
Let's grab one more super chat here from The Topping Show. He says, hey, Tim, how do you combat censorship on YouTube? Noticed at times when I search your channel, it won't say new episodes on the search bar or send notifications. It's now happening to my channel, making it near impossible to grow, seeing more views on Rumble. That's right. YouTube is censoring. My view is that YouTube puts negative pressure on anti-establishment and positive pressure on establishment. So it's it's attrition. They want to make sure people slowly forget about you, but only slowly. And they want to make it impossible for new channels in the anti-establishment space to grow. But if you're pro-establishment, you'll see a positive uptick. So there are a lot of shows that are completely wrong and they get things totally wrong all the time. And for some reason, they're just seeing great growth. And then there are other channels that are anti-establishment. And I mean, you can look at Crowder, for instance. They give him a strike on everything. We just had two of our two biggest episodes were deleted. 3 years later, like, oh, they broke the rules. Spare me. It's the game. What you have to do is build a business outside of YouTube. That's why we have the Timcast memberships, so that in the event that something happens on YouTube, we have that sort of safety net. That being said, if we got banned from YouTube, it's basically, it's like a third of the business shuts down. I don't know how we operate without YouTube. That's a reality. So follow us on Rumble, rumble.com/Timcast IRL, as well as Timcast and Timcast News. They're all on Rumble. Got a bunch of channels. And follow me at Timcast on X and Instagram. Those are going to be important because we're posting clips there as well. We're also available on all podcast platforms. So in the event we do get nuked from YouTube, we're still on Spotify and Apple. And those are actually large for us. We get somewhere like a third or more of our traffic on the podcast, not on YouTube, surprisingly. So we're there. And go to timcast.com, click join us, because we are going to the uncensored call-in show now in just a few minutes, where we are going to debut the new single from All That Remains. Divine. Exciting. It's an honor and a privilege, sir. It's an honor. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. We'll wrap up there before we head out. But Lisa, you want to shout anything out?
No, just make sure you guys tune into the Culture War at Tenet Media on Fridays.
What are we doing this Friday?
Abortion.
You're doing an abortion live on?
No. Kristen Hawkins.
Even Phil was shocked by that one.
Right.
We had a pastor that was with a pastor organization. He had a family emergency last minute, so we have another pastor that was his friend that's coming in who's actually local. So it's going to be Kristen Hawkins. They're both he's a pastor that is pro-choice, and she is a pro-life activist.
Interesting.
So
this will get heated. I go hard on the legal arguments there, so it'll be fun.
So yeah, and we're going to talk about how they think it affects the election and things like that. So.
Cool.
That's very cool.
Now there's a couple really spicy ones coming up after that. So I think May 17th, the 17th. Look forward to the 17th. That one's going to be.
Should we just say who it is?
Well, we've got Pearl Lauren Chen, Isabella Riley, and Rachel Wilson. So
All in one show?
yeah, they're all coming.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
That's
I
gonna-
feel like I'm going to be sitting here like with my hands up.
I was gonna say, like, good luck to Kellen, who's pressing the button.
Surrounded.
I'm going to be babysitting. I'm going to be watching Isabella's
Yeah, you should come.
daughter.
You should come down.
I am. I'm going to help with the baby
Cool.
while she's there. So, but yeah.
Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. If you click the link down below in the description of this here video, you can pre-order pre-save our new single, Divine. It'll be available on Friday, the 30th. The video goes up then as well. The band is All That Remains. You can catch us this summer on the Destroy All Enemies tour with Megadeth, Mudvayne, and All That Remains. It's going to start out on August 2nd, and it goes until September 29th. You can follow the band on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Deezer or Dozer or whatever it's called, Pandora, the internet. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime. Hannah Claire.
It's been so fun to be here. I'm glad we got to do a show together, Lisa.
Me too.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. You can follow all of our work at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at hcbrimlow. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye, Serge.
See you later, Hannah Claire. See you guys.
Bye, Serge.
We will see you all over at timcast.com for the debut of Divine by All That Remains. We'll see you then.
Yeah!